Fortunately, Li Changshou's master didn't suspect anything. Instead, he showed concern, asking when Li Changshou had developed such a condition, and he carefully examined Li Changshou's pulse. Thanks to Taoist master Qi Yuan's cultivation level being only one step away from becoming an immortal, he was easily deceived by Li Changshou during the examination, which helped Li Changshou resolve this minor crisis. Your six senses are unstable, and your mind is chaotic. Qi Yuan advised seriously, Changshou, after you return, you should meditate in seclusion. For a while, do not go out and move around. I will also remind Lingyi not to disturb you. Your mental state has some problems, but fortunately, it's not serious. A period of quiet cultivation should be enough. Li Changshou nodded solemnly, yes, master. Ahead, Qin Xianya looked slightly nervous, but relaxed after hearing Qi Yuan's words. Her expression was caught by the short Taoist, Jiu Wu, standing nearby. Interesting, Jiu Wu's thick eyebrows raised, his expression instantly becoming playful. Hearing Qi Yuan Taoist master's words, Jiu also relaxed, jumped up to Qin Xianya's side, and whispered to ask what had happened before. Li Changshou glanced at the soul capture bead in his storage artifact, where several incomplete souls were not completely dissolved, and many memory fragments could be found. So he silently released a thread of spiritual sense, moved the soul capture bead to a more cornered position, and sealed it with a talisman. Mind your own business, and all will be well. Jiu Wu's strength was much stronger than Jiu's, but he didn't dare to fly at full speed within Beizhou. This Taoist was very cautious, not saying a word on the way, his eyes always scanning around vigilantly. This made Li Changshou quite favorable. Finally, they left Beiju Luzhou safely and without any incidents. After leaving the miasma covered area, Jiu Wu flew 100 miles to the south with them, found a desolate mountain, and notified the fellow disciples to come here to gather. After waiting for almost half an hour, Wang Qi's master brought Wang Qi and Lu Yener first. Qin Xianya's master, Gujing Shan, Yuan Qing's master Lin Qi, and Lu Yener's master arrived here 2 hours later. Ge Jing Shan was a classic example of an immortal, with a beautiful face and a serene aura, her hair tied up and dressed in immortal clothes. She was full of immortality, but did not lose the worldly charm. Little Ye, seeing her beloved disciple kneeling on the ground, full of bandaged wounds, her long skirt covered in blood, and her expression haggard as if she had changed, Gujing Shan's face showed sorrow. She rushed to Qin Xianya's side in 2 steps and hugged her. Master, master is here, master is here. It was master's moment of confusion that agreed to Yuan Qing's plea and let you come here to seek the detestable fire Ming Heartgrass as a trial. It was all master's fault. Qin Xianya's eyes were slightly red, but she took a deep breath, stabilized her emotions, and whispered, the disciple is useless, and has caused the master to worry. Lin Qi, who had come with her and had already received the news of Yuan Qing's death, did not get angry. Looking at Qin Xianya and her master who were kneeling there, he asked in a deep voice, what exactly is going on? When they separated to investigate, they also took a Yuan immortal who was an accomplice of Yuan Qing and Wenling. At this moment, that Yuan immortal had also been dealt with by them, and they had asked about the general situation. Jiu Wu said, Brother Lin Qi, please calm down, let Xianya tell the whole story. Xianya, you should try to be as detailed as possible, without any concealment. Gujing Shan hurriedly said, Little Ye, just say it, master will take care of everything for you. Disciple obeys. Qin Xianya looked at Li Changshou in the outer circle. Just as her emotions were about to fluctuate, they mysteriously calmed down. She sighed first, then slowly began to tell from the time when the 5 disciples had just acted separately, with no details left out, from afternoon to dusk, from dusk to a sky full of stars. This poisonous sister, why not start from the creation of the world? Li Changshou muttered in his heart, quietly went to a slightly distant place to meditate and recuperate, and also heard about Qin Xianya's general experience after Jiu was trapped. Yuan Qing did not directly attack Qin Xianya, but first called a group of villains to attack the two, trying to play the hero saving the beauty. However, Qin Xianya, the beauty, was much stronger than Yuan Qing, the hero, which made Yuan Qing's situation extremely awkward. Then Yuan Qing changed his strategy, letting his accomplices put pressure on the two continuously, creating an atmosphere of absolute danger, and then taking the opportunity to express his feelings to Qin Xianya. However, when Qin Xianya faced the desperate situation, she still decisively rejected Yuan Qing's confession of wanting to be in the same hole and go to the next life together. Repeatedly failing in his subtle approaches, Yuan Qing finally lost his temper in embarrassment, tearing down his facade and attempting to control Qin Xianya with a love spell. However, he was thwarted when Qin Xianya took advantage of an opportunity to escape using a teleportation charm, coincidentally running into Li Changshou, who saved her for the first time after recovering from her injuries. Qin Xianya intended to take a detour back to the chaotic poisonous forest, but after several days, she realized she had lost her way. To make matters worse, Yuan Qing and his gang discovered her trail, forcing her into a battle. This time, it was again Li Changshou who happened to pass by. With Li Changshou's guidance, Qin Xianya lured the gang to a deadly poison nest, resulting in their deaths from the poison. Qin Xianya personally killed Yuan Qing. Hearing Qin Xianya recount these experiences, Li Changshou couldn't help but sigh in his heart. This Yuan Qing had so many opportunities, but he squandered them all. He felt a slight sympathy for Yuan Ling's subordinates, who had been wasted by Yuan Qing. After Yu Qing Xianya finished recounting her journey, her gaze landed on Li Changshou. Ge Jing Shan personally brought Yu Qing Xianya over, and the master and disciple formally thanked Li Changshou, promising a more significant gratitude once they returned to their sect. Li Changshou, however, humbly insisted it wasn't necessary. Afraid of Li Changshou misspeaking, Master Qi Yuan arrived just in time, happily accepting the gratitude on his behalf. I end the scene. Only Yuan Qing's master, Lin Qi, felt the most awkward. Sigh. Lin Qi sighed, I made a mistake in accepting a disciple. After returning to the mountain, I will accept my punishment. Jiao Wu said that Yuan Qing was a deep schemer, and he was not sincere when he joined the sect. You directly accepted him as a disciple at the last mountain opening ceremony, so it's not your fault. Lin Qi shook his head in melancholy, choosing not to say anything more. Although Yuan Qing had done evil, he was still Lin Qi's disciple. At this moment, the Taoist master also felt some heartache. Everyone else also took turns comforting him. Regarding Yu Qing Xianya killing Yuan Qing, even though she was justified, she had still killed a fellow sect brother and thus had to face disciplinary action according to the sect rules. Of course, the punishment was very light, just a few years of reflection in seclusion in the mountains. Jiao Wu also encouraged Li Changshou, saying that the sect would surely reward him after they returned to the mountain, and they would not be stingy with his reward. Their group did not return to the Du Xian Gate together. Qi Yuan, accompanied by Li Changshou, lagged behind with Lu Yen-er and Wang Qi. Taking their time on the journey, the others hurried back to Du Xian Gate, with those who needed to be punished getting punished, and those who needed to apologize doing so. Their urgency was all due to Gu Jingshan's urging. Yu Qing Xianya's master was not a simple person. She herself was a disciple of the sect leader, held a high position within the sect, and was proficient in many magical treasures. She also had a respectful Taoist partner, who was a high-level celestial being. Despite the North Continent matter being settled, Gu Jingshan couldn't let her disciple suffer such humiliation. Before they set off, Gu Jingshan directly sent a message to her Taoist partner, asking him to find a few idle sect members. After she returned to the mountain, they would immediately rush to the South Continent, uprooting the worldly forces behind Yuan Qing to eliminate future troubles. The journey back to the mountain was peaceful, with no waves or ripples. However, Li Changshou couldn't help but shudder every time he heard Lu Yen-er affectionately call out to her disciple, Wang Qi. Cultural differences, cultural differences. The night on Shaoqiong Peak was quiet. A white cloud stopped in midair, and Li Changshou floated down from it. Master Qi Yuan, on the other hand, had a spring in his step as he walked on the cloud towards the other peaks. Before his master had received an invitation from Lu Yen-er's master to go to another peak for a small banquet. Passing through the isolation array he had set up himself and stepping onto the familiar grass, Li Changshou took a comfortable breath. Finally, everything was settled. Senior brother. An excited shout came from the side. Li Changshou turned his head and saw green lights flickering around his junior sister's grass hut. The small array that blocked external probes had been opened from the inside, and the sound came from this gap. The sound of running water was incessant, and Ling Yi joyfully shouted, Senior brother, you're back. Are you hurt? Why were you so late? Before she could finish her sentence, a beautiful figure burst out of the grass hut. She was only wrapped in a thin quilt, her slender figure extraordinarily enchanting. Her long hair was wet, and her delicate skin was covered in clear water. She didn't care about any of this, though. Upon seeing Li Changshou, she jumped up in excitement. She had just got into the wooden barrel, just started to bathe, and now maybe the water had got into her eyes. Her almond eyes suddenly became misty. She opened her arms and threw herself at him. Li Changshou instinctively wanted to dodge, but seeing Ling Yi's eyes full of grievances, he sighed in his heart, stood in place with his hands behind his back, and let his junior sister crash into his arms. Stinky senior brother, you scared me to death. You didn't come back for so long. I thought something had happened to you. Ling Yi's voice involuntarily took on a crying tone, and she started to choke up. Just as she was about to cry, a big hand gently rubbed her head. Senior brother, Ling Yi looked up, her eyes sparkling, and her small mouth couldn't help but pout. Li Changshou suddenly said, by the way, our master, ah. Ling Yi immediately realized that their master might have also returned with her senior brother. She let out a soft cry and quickly turned around, rushing back into the grass hut. She wrapped herself in the quilt and jumped into the big wooden barrel, hiding in the water and daring not to poke her head out. She couldn't let any man other than her senior brother see her in that state, not even their master. She probed out with her divine sense, and Ling Yi was full of doubts as she poked her head out of the water. Li Changshou's voice floated over from outside, our master. He has gone to another peak for a feast. I'll rest for a while, and then I'll come to ask you about your experiences during this period at the third watch. After saying that, he casually activated her grass hut's array again, and Li Changshou floated back to his own dwelling. I and the wooden barrel. Ling Yi looked down at the thin quilt wrapped around her, her cheeks gradually turning red. Stinky senior brother, she grumbled with her mouth pouted, and her head slowly sank into the water, leaving a string of bubbles on the surface. Qi Yuan had been drinking until midnight before he returned to Shaoqiong Peak. Li Changshou had not seen his master so joyful in 7 or 8 years. His master would hum a little tune that he picked up from somewhere as he walked. As he passed by Li Changshou's door, Qi Yuan called out, "Changshou, are you meditating?" "Master, your disciple is resting, slowing down my mind today, preparing to meditate again tomorrow." Li Changshou, who was sitting in meditation on his straw bed, opened his eyes and responded. Just as he was about to get up to open the door, he heard his master laugh, "Rest, rest. I am going to go into seclusion too. You did well this time, saving our nephew, Yu Qingxuanya of Padian Peak, with your escape technique. It truly brought honor to our Shaoqiong Peak. However, do not become complacent because of this. Everything should be based on cultivation. Do not overly focus on escape techniques. Your own cultivation level is the foundation." "I understand," Li Changshou responded from inside the room. Qi Yuan, the old Taoist, stroked his beard and smiled, then instructed, "Consolidate your cultivation level well. Cultivation should not be rushed. Steadiness and carefulness, step by step, are the keys to passing through the several major barriers. You rest. I am going into seclusion. Linger has been worrying about you these past few days and looks quite haggard. Remember to comfort her a bit tomorrow." "Yes," Li Changshou responded softly. Qi Yuan chuckled a couple of times, hummed a little tune, and walked back into his own straw house, activating several surrounding formations. Seclusion still needs to be quiet. Soundproofing and alert formations are essential. Li Changshou looked at the jade boxes in his storage artifact, heaved a sigh of relief, and prepared for a few more days to build his long-desired pill room. Then he could start refining the Rongxian pill. As long as the Rongxian pill is successfully refined, and if he can persuade his master to keep it as a backup during the tribulation, the probability of his master surviving the heavenly tribulation could reach 90%. The heavenly tribulation to become an immortal is an unavoidable test and hardship for all creatures who want to live forever. Once the heavenly thunder falls, life and death are determined. Since ancient times, those who seek to become immortals through the tribulation, no one dares to say that they are fully confident of surviving the heavenly tribulation, and his master suffered an injury early in his life. His foundation was damaged, his cultivation was not very stable, and his soul power was half weaker than other ordinary ninth-order cultivators. If he doesn't think of other ways, facing the heavenly tribulation, his master is completely in a death trap, and the master is eager to cross the tribulation to become an immortal. Qi Yuan is not only his and Linger's master, but also the peak master of this generation of Shaoqiong Peak, the only peak master in the Duoxian Gate who has not become an immortal, and the elder peak master will not notify Shaoqiong Peak at all. Compared horizontally, the uncle Jojo, who entered the school a few years later than his master, is now a true immortal, leaving his master far behind. Before becoming an immortal, the lifespan of a human qi refiner cannot exceed 3,000 years. This is a fixed number of the Great Path. Qi Yuan can actually live for several hundred to 1,000 years, but Li Changshou knew that his master did not want to suppress his realm, and did not want to wait until his lifespan was not enough to bet on whether he could become an immortal. Sometimes Li Changshou can even feel that his master already has the idea of seeking death under the heavenly tribulation, and wants to fight for his own slim chance of survival with the determination to die. This sounds very passionate, but in Li Changshou's view, his master's idea is both stubborn and foolish. So, that's why Li Changshou had been preparing secretly for 15 years. So, that's why Li Changshou would for the first time violate his own principle, leave the protection of the mountain gate, and go to Baijiluzu. And after discovering the Shenjia grass, he dared to risk calculating the Sanjing Bibo snake and Yuan Ling and others. The core of the first set of plans that Li Changshou prepared to help his master cross the tribulation is to refine the Rongxian pill with the Shenjia grass. When his master crosses the tribulation, as long as he can resist the first heavenly tribulation and produce the first strand of immortal spirit, he can directly swallow the Rongxian pill, use the Rongxian pill to fake death and initiate a soldier solution, thereby avoiding subsequent heavenly tribulations. If an immortal fails to cross the tribulation, they can turn into a turbid immortal after the soldier solution. Although the cultivation and supernatural powers of the turbid immortal are far inferior to those of the normal Yuanxian, their lifespan is the same and they can continue to cultivate. According to the records in ancient books, the highest a turbid immortal can cultivate is to the realm of a true immortal, so it is also called the way of the earth immortal. To distinguish it from the way of the celestial immortal. I end this first set of plans. Li Changshou even planned his master's old age transform into an earth immortal, accumulate a few hundred years of cultivation, go to the heavenly court that is just starting and urgently needs manpower to mix a leisure job, be a small local land god or mountain god or river god. As long as you enjoy a little incense, your lifespan can be longer than that of ordinary true immortals. If the master can achieve some results, get the achievements given by the heavenly court, and even have the possibility to live longer than some celestial immortals. By the way, the master goes to the heavenly court to accumulate some connections, and when he and his junior sister are ready, he can also go to the heavenly court to mix a leisure job, mix the qualifications of an old man in the future management organization of the three realms, and then retire peacefully. Perfect planning. Refining this pill is not complicated. If you can ask a true immortal like Uncle Jojo to help, prepare more materials, and you will always be able to refine it. But the master is a typical sect qi refiner, who is stubborn and suffers a lot. To persuade him to use this method to survive, it is really more difficult than finding xianjia grass. However, as a disciple, I have to bear this cause and effect, which is an unavoidable responsibility. If it really doesn't work, I can only deceive and coax, wrap the rongxian pill in a sugar coat, and say it's a life-saving immortal pill. Thinking of this, Li Changshou also showed a slight smile. And the sound of insects outside the window, he began to recall his experiences, this time, examining his shortcomings. The means to deal with the yuanxian is not enough, and it is not handled quickly enough. There's still room for improvement in the paper cutting technique. The created clones were always unable to reach a level of perfect imitation. The 5 elements escape technique was still somewhat sluggish. When he entered the roots of the old cypress tree, some fluctuations were exposed in the soil. After self-criticism for a while, there was plenty of time to make up for these shortcomings. After all, Li Changshou had no need to go out anymore. He could just cultivate in the mountains honestly. As for his own heavenly tribulation, he was not in a hurry. He would not take this step without 99.9% confidence. The 0.1% chance could give the heavenly Tao an opportunity to act up. Thump! The wooden wall of the grass house was hit by a stone, and Li Changshou calculated that it was already past the time of evening. Getting up, Li Changshou stepped out of the grass house and strolled towards his junior sister's residence next door. During the 10 years of his junior sister's entry, most of the teaching, tutoring, and life guidance took place during the time of evening. When he arrived at the grass house, Li Changshou gently knocked on the door. The wooden door opened a crack by itself, and he walked in. The pink curtains came into sight, and the carpet under his feet had also been changed to a pink style. Behind the semi-transparent screen, a familiar silhouette was lying on the bed, facing the inside. The gauze dress revealed some beautiful scenes. The most precious thing was the hazy state, which was intriguing and not vulgar. However, Li Changshou didn't even spare 2 glances and sat directly in the main seat of the room, saying indifferently, "Stop pretending to sleep. Such a gentle sleeping position does not suit you when you are asleep." From behind the screen came a coquettish voice. "Brother, I just learned to configure the soft immortal scatter, and now I'm a bit dizzy, my head is a bit heavy, I can't do anything, my body is weak and I can't muster any strength." Li Changshou nodded and made a move to get up. "Then let's talk tomorrow, it's not a big deal anyway." "No." Ling Yi broke her act instantly, and her complaint came with a hint of dissatisfaction. "Sit down, I'll be right out." "Humph, you must explain clearly today why you came back so late." There was a rustling sound, and Ling Yi quickly changed into a long skirt and came out from behind the screen. She sat on the left side of the table, glaring at Li Changshou somewhat angrily. Li Changshou gave a helpless smile and said, "I did encounter some accidents." "Do you know about Yuanqing from Petian Peak?" Ling Yi blinked. "The disciple of Petian Peak who went with you to the North Continent, right? He ranks second in our generation in terms of cultivation, and is said to be quite gentle. Remember, a man's gentleness is always just an appearance." He stirred up some trouble this time, tried to calculate Yuqin Xianya, but ended up being killed by her. Li Changshou shook his head, sorting out the images he had seen from those residual memories. His actions were actually a classic case of losing more than gaining. He gave up his identity as a disciple of Du Xian Dor and insisted on coveting the fleeting royal power of the secular world. Ling Yi leaned her chin on her hand, tilted her body on the square table, and asked softly, "Brother, what happened?" Li Changshou said slowly that Yuqin Xianya is a 6th princess of a secular kingdom in the South Continent, and this Yuanqing is a non-hereditary son of a noble family in this secular kingdom, known as the 4th prince. Yuanqing's mother should be a concubine of this noble family, but she is more dominant, and is also a young lady from another noble family, so she has some power. Then these people targeted the 6th princess who was sent to Du Xian Dor for apprenticeship and cultivation. As long as Yuanqing can marry the 6th princess, he can become the son-in-law of this secular kingdom, and by this means gain more say in his own family, and even have the possibility of plotting against the kingdom. So they used all means to let Yuanqing also enter our Du Xian Dor, but Yuanqing himself was too incompetent. He couldn't win the beauty in 60 years. The people behind him were in a difficult situation and finally couldn't wait. They decided to take a risk. Li Changshou briefly introduced the previous events to his junior sister. Now, these people have failed to steal the chicken and lost their rice. The 2 families are likely to be implicated and are expected to be uprooted by their king to appease the anger of Du Xian Dor. Looking at Ling Yi's thoughtful face, Li Changshou asked softly, "Little Yi, what can you learn from this story?" Ling Yi pondered for a moment, then decisively said, "Women should never be concubines, otherwise it's so hard to fight for power at home." Li Changshou couldn't help but hold his forehead. "Anything else?" "This Yuanqing's plan and layout are too rough, and the power of this secular noble family's branch seriously underestimated the strength of Du Xian Dor and the value of Du Xian Dor disciples." Ling Yi analyzed very seriously. "I think the correct approach should be to suppress Yuqin Xianya, endure for thousands of years to become a celestial, and then secretly become the hidden dark king of this secular kingdom after coming out of the mountain, plundering the wealth of this kingdom to contribute to the door, and enhancing his own position and importance in the door. A win-win situation both in the secular world and in the immortal door. Thinking of gaining a higher position by marrying the king's daughter is too fanciful. What these kings lack the most are heirs. Li Changshou, forget it, just take this as a fun story to listen to. Your family is also a secular noble. I wanted to remind you to take this as a warning. Hee hee. Ling Yi covered her mouth and laughed. Don't worry, brother, without you, Ling Yi won't go anywhere. Li Changshou couldn't help but shake his head and smile. Bring out the medicine bag, I'll refill it for you. You should have used some this time. Ling Yi immediately showed a guilty face, slowly straightened up, put her fair and delicate legs together, placed her hands on her knees, and her eyes gently turned, pretending to be obedient, cute, lost in thought. The poison powder and pills that brother gave, when I went out this time, I didn't waste that much. This spendthrift little junior sister of mine, she managed to use up a whopping 80% of the poison powder I had prepared for her, just to fight those shrimp demons that are almost as weak as ordinary humans. The amount she used could have been enough to bring down an army of 100,000 in the mundane world. Seeing the 13 almost empty storage artifacts in front of him, Li Changshou was filled with frustration, his forehead covered with dark lines, as if he was brewing a storm. Lan Lingyi was kneeling on the cushion in front of him, tears streaking down her cheeks, hoping to avoid her senior brother's righteous punishment with her pitiful appearance. Li Changshou's mouth twitched as he held a purse and asked, "Were you trying to kill the great demon of the Eastern Sea?" "Well, you told me to use it when I'm in danger. I almost got cut by those shrimp soldiers, so I just threw it out instinctively." Li Changshou's face darkened. "If I remember correctly, I prepared 9 jars for you. I was almost cut many times." Lan Lingyi pouted, about to burst into tears, explaining pitifully, "Don't be angry, senior brother. I know it takes a lot of effort for you to make these things. I didn't mean to waste them." Looking at his junior sister in this state, Li Changshou couldn't really get angry. He just sighed. The effort is a small matter, it's just that the materials are hard to find. We, the Door of Ascension, rarely make poison pills. I exchanged these for my monthly allowance bit by bit. Senior brother, I've thought about that. Lan Lingyi blinked, patted her waistband lightly, and took out 7 or 8 simple storage artifacts. So, I exchanged all the rewards I could get this time for the poisonous herbs and poisons I could find within the sect. This deal is definitely not a loss, I might even make a lot. Li Changshou was a bit dumbfounded, looking into Lan Lingyi's gem-like eyes. He saw a hint of evasion. "This little girl, is there anything else you want to confess? Speak up while I'm still in a good mood." Lan Lingyi took a deep breath, suddenly raised her hands, then bowed her head and forehead to the ground, her long hair scattered on both sides of her head. She apologized, all in one breath. "Senior brother, I apologize to you. 2 of our masters were interested in the poison powder you made. They took some of the most potent poison from me. I really didn't know how to refuse. I accidentally exposed the fact that you are highly skilled in making poison." The room was silent. Lan Lingyi's shoulders were shaking slightly. She was not afraid of her senior brother beating her. She even wished that he would beat her to vent his anger. She was trained by her senior brother, understood his principles, so she was so nervous, worried that her senior brother would abandon her in the future, would draw a clear line with her. "Why is it so quiet? It's over. Senior brother must be completely disappointed in her." Lan Lingyi, "Oh Lan Lingyi, why did you forget yourself and show off in public as soon as you went out, and got targeted by the senior members of the sect? What kind of person is senior brother?" Probably only she, his junior sister, understood it best that he would keep 90% of his abilities as a trump card, always low-key, absolutely avoiding any unnecessary karma. The reason why she could receive senior brother's care was purely because she was his only close junior sister. They had the same master. Otherwise, senior brother would definitely not even spare her a glance. With a crying voice, Lingyi said, "Senior brother, you can beat me, just don't ignore me in the future. I know I was wrong, I won't show off these things again." She felt a large hand reach out from the front. Lan Lingyi instinctively closed her eyes. Was she going to endure the first physical punishment since she entered the sect, being beaten up by her senior brother? Being beaten is also a good thing, at least senior brother can vent his anger. The hand that had stroked her hair fell straight down, but it didn't slap her hard. Instead, it turned a corner, pinched her ear and slowly pulled her up. Senior brother, be gentle, my ear hurts." "Don't use that tone, if master hears it he'll think I've done something to you." Li Changshou snorted, released her small ear, and said indifferently, "Get up, it's not a big deal." Lan Lingyi sat up straight instantly, her graceful figure clearly displayed in her movements. She looked at her senior brother in confusion, and asked quietly, "Senior brother, are you not hiding anymore? Are you going to confront the sect? What cards are there to reveal? What's there to confront?" Li Changshou was a bit dumbfounded. "You think I don't know your character? Since I gave you those poison powders to defend yourself, I had already thought about what kind of commotion you would cause. In fact, I deliberately let you reveal these things, for several considerations. Among the 2 seniors who took the poison powder from you, was there one Linjun from Danding Peak? The one who has a limp in his left leg, walks with a copper cane, looks a bit cold, but always puts on a stiff smile when talking to people. Deliberately let her reveal several considerations. Lan Lingyi was stunned. How did you know, senior brother? Indeed, there is this senior. Didn't you just come back tonight? The first one who wanted to take the poison powder was Elder Go, who presided over the experience meeting, and then at noon the day before yesterday, the old man with the cane came. He gave me a lot of herbs and wanted to take those, senior brother. Lan Lingyi quickly realized, looking at Li Changshou's deep eyes, she gritted her teeth and said, you had it all planned. What do you mean planned? This is a kind protection between senior and junior siblings. The more you know, the more burdened you will be. Li Changshou waved his hand indifferently and smiled. The poison powders I gave you focus on the combination and toxicology of various herbs, without any difficult refining techniques. It's no big deal if someone notices. The formula is in the Dao Collection Outer Hall, where all peak disciples can go, and the herbs can be found in the 100 Variety Hall. Today, within our gates, or rather, among the 5 continent sects of cultivators, the word poison is often regarded with contempt, seen as a dishonorable method. Those skilled in the art of poison often face discrimination and prejudice, hence, even if it were discovered that I am adept at concocting poisons and quite proficient at it, it wouldn't cause much fuss. Not only will it not draw much attention, but people will instead think that I, a disciple of ordinary talent, have strayed from the right path. Pausing his words, a meaningful smile appeared at the corner of Li Changshou's mouth. Moreover, the poisons I've given you, several of which are derived from a toxic scripture I copied from the Dao Treasury. The author of this scripture is Elder Wan Linjun, who is probably the most knowledgeable about the art of poison amongst us in the immortal sect. If you can form a good relationship with this elder through this opportunity, you may receive his guidance on the art of poison in the future. Brother, Lan Lingyi complained somewhat discontentedly, are you going to include even my will in your plans? If it's something like this, wouldn't it be better to just remind me directly, arranging even your gentle and adorable junior sister? It's just too much. Li Changshou glanced at her. Don't change the subject, we're talking about your wasteful use of poison pills. You must be taught a lesson. To remember this, tomorrow, you will be punished to go to the back mountain to cut wood and clear land, without the use of Daoist magic. Cutting wood is nothing big. Lan Lingyi obediently agreed, her face full of sincerity. She couldn't help but ask, what are we going to do with the cleared land? Build a pill room for refining pills and poison, this time, using your hands. Let the management of the sect know that I'm good at refining poison. In the future, I can naturally mess around with these on our small Cheong Peak, without having to hide like a game of hide and seek. Having said that, Li Changshou stood up and collected all the medicine bags on the table, stretching lazily. After I finish my midday meditation, I will go and find a suitable location for the pill room. You're clearly just trying to slack off, brother. How can you let such a delicate junior sister go cut wood? Lan Lingyi made a face at his retreating figure, complaining somewhat discontentedly. Here, take this, delicate chi practitioner. Li Changshou, who had already reached the door, suddenly remembered something, took out a jade box from his sleeve, and tossed it to his junior sister. A gift? Lan Lingyi instantly forgot her previous unhappiness and happily hugged the jade box. Just as she was about to open the box, as if remembering something, she held the box up with her magic, sending it a yard away in the air before opening it. A faint fragrance wafted out, and a 6-petaled white flower lay quietly in the jade box. A medicinal herb. She thought it was jewelry or something. Just as Lan Lingyi was about to complain, Li Changshou had already left the room, leaving only his slightly tired voice within the array. Before your next bath, place it in warm water. It can help expand your meridians, detoxify and nourish your skin, making it more radiant. See you tomorrow. Alright, thank you, brother. See you tomorrow. Lan Lingyi let out a long sigh of relief, slumped in her circle chair, followed by a triumphant smile. Safe passage, her brother still spoils her. She thought she would be scolded for wasting so much poison powder, but all she got was a twist of the ear. But the matter of the trial competition, from beginning to end, seems to be perfectly arranged by her brother. This indeed makes her a little unhappy, feeling that her brother still doesn't trust her. Forget it, it's just his nature. Even the cut-off hair is burnt to ashes with real fire, and the trimmed nail clippings are completely melted with poison. Even the intentionally drunk junior sister is tied to the bed with a tying immortal lock and covered with a quilt. It seems she accidentally revealed something. Lan Lingyi's face turned red. That time last year, she wasn't drunk on purpose. Returning to his own thatched hut, Li Changshou sat down to meditate by his bed, planning the layout of the pill room in his heart. He had always used a small cauldron for refining poison, which no longer met his needs. Moreover, to refine the fusion immortal pill and stronger poison pills, he needed a larger, better quality cauldron. First, build the pill room, then go to the Hall of 100 Vanities to ask his familiar uncles and aunts. A good cauldron is hard to come by. This can only rely on luck. Ideally, he could find some old cauldrons and try to salvage them, to see if he could work wonders. The matter of the pill room, he had actually considered for 30 to 40 years, but had always hesitated. Ordinary is the best disguise from the Isolation array that covers their living quarters, to the arrays outside their huts, to the mountains and rivers, plants and trees of Cheong Peak, everything is ordinary, with no unique features, and to build a pill room, he would inevitably have to make various arrangements inside and outside the room, to prevent others from discovering his little tricks during pill and poison refining. Li Changshou understood from the very beginning that any deliberate disguise would not deceive those high-level observers, but would instead draw their extra attention. Being noticed by these high-level observers does not necessarily mean something good will happen. Not being noticed by them means that bad things beyond his control are less likely to happen. At least the probability of something going wrong will be much lower. The pill room can't be too close to the residence, in case any poisonous gas leaks. Li Changshou murmured, taking out a storage artifact specially used for storing books and jade slips, and took out a stack of thick parchment. On it are drawn various diagrams of arrays and building structures, each with many traces of repeated modifications, and the oldest parchments have very faint marks. Clang. In the serene afternoon, under the silky, moist protective mountain array of Duxian Gate, there was a place enveloped. On the small Cheong Peak, which was significantly shorter among the group of mountains, a rhythmic striking sound echoed. In the dense forest about 10 miles to the north of the 3 thatched huts beside the small lake, a towering tree was also trembling constantly with this striking sound. Under the tree, a young girl, dressed in a practice suit embroidered with orchids and grass, and a light purple silk cloud scarf tied on her head, was swinging a big axe incessantly. Her movements had an indescribable elegance. This young girl was gritting her teeth and sending out a round of warm greetings. What to do if I'm not allowed to use magic power and my legs and arms grow that kind of lump meat? I'm a female chi practitioner. Really, he said he would watch me cut down the tree, but he ran back to meditate again. Humph, stinky senior brother, I will cut you off from the root, cut down the tree and root, and there will be no grass left. Give it to me, break. Crack, this old tree slowly fell down, twisting and pinching, startling a group of birds in the forest. Suddenly, a shout came from behind. Are you Xiao Lingyi? Lan Lingyi was instantly alert. Holding the giant axe, she immediately jumped forward. When she landed, she had already turned around and looked up at the figure floating in the air, feeling somewhat familiar. A gourd a yard long, a female immortal sitting cross-legged on the gourd, a little dirty hemp robe. The short hemp robe was almost being stretched open. It turned out to be Joju, a master uncle. Lan Lingyi quickly put down the big axe, stepped forward to salute, and thought back to the several greeting templates set by her senior brother in her heart. She chose the most appropriate one and said softly, Disciple Lingyi pays respects to Joju, a master uncle. My cultivation is shallow and I couldn't greet you in time. Please don't blame me, master uncle. It's okay, no need to be so polite. Jojue looked at the polite, sweet-talking, beautiful little niece below, and also felt quite fond. Jojue put away the big gourd and jumped down from the air. Is your senior brother here? I have something to look for him. Senior brother should be in cultivation. Lan Lingyi lowered her eyes and continued softly, please wait for a while, master uncle, I will call my master to welcome you. I'm afraid our hospitality may not be up to standard, please forgive me, master uncle. Hey, no need to bother so much, I came here specifically to find your senior brother. Your master has already become an immortal, let him stay in seclusion and don't disturb him. Jojue waved her hand and looked around. Xiao Lingyi, what are you chopping wood for? It's a kind of cultivation method. I'm sorry for making you laugh, master uncle. Lan Lingyi's answer was still impeccable, but a bit of doubt began to surge in her heart. This master uncle, what is she looking for her senior brother for? After becoming an immortal, chi practitioners have a long lifespan, and there are many cross-generational Dao couples in the door. And this master uncle in front of her, with a pretty face and curvy figure, although somewhat unkempt, she herself was naturally beautiful, and even more, her resources were substantial. The key point is, this Jojue master uncle went out with her senior brother once. There is a problem. Lan Lingyi became alert and wanted to ask about Jojue's intention indirectly, but before she could speak, a slight ripple appeared on the ground not far away, and Li Changshou's figure slowly emerged. He saluted Jojue. A moment later, in Li Changshou's thatched hut, Jojue and Li Changshou sat cross-legged on opposite sides of the low table. She came to give Li Changshou the rewards from this experience meeting, and also brought the thank you gift entrusted by Jiang Jingshan, and put 2 storage magic weapons on the low table. Li Changshou didn't be polite and accepted them directly, seeing the several magic weapons, a small mountain of precious materials and spirit stones in the storage ring given by Jiang master uncle. Li Changshou felt a bit relieved. Just now when he was exploring the earth veins of the small Cheong Peak, Li Changshou was still worried about the precious materials needed to build various large arrays. This thank you gift solved most of the problem. Li Changshou asked, why didn't master uncle go to Nanzhou? Jojue sighed long, listlessly laying on the table, her eyes gradually losing their brilliance. I originally wanted to go have fun, but when I returned to the mountain, I was left behind for accountability until now. Just came out from the reward and punishment hall. Now I'm worried. The elders actually punished me to abstain from alcohol for 3 years. It's better to tie me to the thunder pillar for 3 years. Li Changshou couldn't help smiling, only then did he notice that Zhou Jue's small gourd magic weapon was gone. It must have been taken away by the elders in the door. Just as Ling Yi brought tea into the room, seeing this situation, she couldn't help but purse her lips. Such a casual pose, and she gets along so well with her senior brother. This master uncle definitely has a problem. After serving the tea, Ling Yi moved her meditation cushion next to her senior brother, then knelt down obediently. With a look of innocence, deliberately pressing her arm against her senior brother, Zhou Jue saw this and widened her eyes. Hey Changshou, your illness, it's okay for my junior sister and me to have contact, probably because I spend day and night with my junior sister, Li Changshou explained calmly. When I touch women other than my junior sister, I still can't help but have symptoms such as convulsions. Cough cough cough. Ling Yi covered her mouth and coughed, looking at her slightly pained expression. It was definitely because it was too hard to hold back a laugh. Oh, I see. Zhou Jue had no doubt. She lay down and sighed softly, her eyes lost their light again, and she weakly chanted, 3 years, how can I endure these 3 years, how can I seclude myself and cultivate without wine, I can't sleep, I don't have the energy to do anything. This damn Yuan Qing, always messing things up. Not only did he get himself into trouble, but he also got me, his senior uncle, into 3 years of suffering. Li Changshou was deep in thought, stroking his chin in contemplation. Ling Yi, who was sitting next to him, noticed his expression and instinctively moved away. Sitting upright and not daring to speak, she sneaked a glance at the curve of Li Changshou's brows, confirming that this was a sign that her senior brother was planning something tricky. Every time he had this expression, either she or their master would end up being assigned some task. Uncle Zhou, how about we make a deal? What kind of deal? Zhou replied listlessly. Uncle, you can't drink for these 3 years. If you can't cultivate, why not help me build some formations, Li Changshou said seriously. In return, I will brew 3 kinds of extinct fine wines for you to enjoy after 3 years, and also, there is a drink that can replace alcohol. Extinct fine wines, a drink that can replace alcohol? Zhou suddenly perked up and sat upright. What are you trying to pull? Are you trying to trick me into working for free? Let's be clear, I know nothing about formations. All Uncle needs to do is use his immortal power to stabilize the base of the formation and suppress the fluctuations of spiritual power. Li Changshou replied with a calm smile. Do you like to drink or taste alcohol? Do you like the taste of alcohol or the feeling of being drunk? Zhou pondered for a moment. Both. I guess that I entered the mountain when I was 3 years old. My 5th senior brother, who was in charge of taking care of me, liked to brew alcohol. Once, I was accidentally thrown into a vat of alcohol for a bath, and since then, I've been unable to leave this thing in the cup. If I had to say, the taste of the alcohol is very important, and the slightly tipsy feeling when you drink to your heart's content is also very important. Uncle, please look. Li Changshou pointed to the teacup in front of him, took out a small jade bottle from his sleeve, opened the stopper, and dripped a drop of light green liquid into the cup. In an instant, a faint aroma wafted around, and the tea in the cup turned light green. Li Changshou smiled and said, Uncle, try it and see if it gives you that slightly tipsy feeling. Oh, Zhou blinked, picked up the teacup, sniffed it tentatively, only to smell a faint fragrance, then took a small sip, and her eyes lit up. She finished the tea in one gulp. A slight blush appeared on Zhou's pretty face, her eyes began to look a bit blurry, and she couldn't stop smiling. Good stuff, it's strong. Clang, the teacup fell on the table, and Zhou slowly lay down, rolling around on the ground, letting out a series of giggles, and muttering, 7th senior brother, you're not shy, always sticking to 6th senior sister, dual cultivating for so many years and still can't produce a baby, all of you are paired up, just because I'm the 9th, I have to be alone. Wait until I become a celestial, I'll snatch a few handsome guys to pour wine and massage me every day. Little Changshou, you must never look down on your master was very powerful back then. Gradually, the snoring started. Zhou hugged the cushion and fell asleep on the ground. Ling Yi curiously asked, Senior brother, what is this? Immortal drunk, Li Changshou replied, it's both a kind of aphrodisiac and a kind of fine wine, but it doesn't smell like alcohol. Apart from making people drunk, it has no other effects. It was originally something I discarded. According to ancient records, in ancient times, many immortals who liked to drink would try this immortal brew. However, they were all because they were too addicted to alcohol and directly poured it into their mouths. It was originally brewed in a similar way to brewing alcohol, but while most of the alcohol is brewed from immortal fruits and grains, the ingredients for immortal drunk are 32 types of medicinal herbs. Ling Yi asked worriedly, is there enough for 3 kinds? Li Changshou nodded with a smile, looked at the already sleeping Zhou, thought about the pill room he was about to complete, and replied, not to mention 3 kinds, I can make 13 kinds. If there is a true immortal to help, many of the ideas that couldn't be realized before can now be realized. The safety factor will be more guaranteed after the completion of the pill room. Okay, Ling Yi pouted, looking at her adorable uncle who was sleeping. She felt a slight sense of crisis. 2 years later, bang, the wooden door of Li Changshou's thatched house was kicked open, and Zhou, dressed in coarse clothes and with an anxious look on her face, rushed in. Quick, this month's immortal drunk and beauty charm, not here. Why is he refining pills again? I should just tie him to the furnace. Jiu stomped her foot and muttered a few words under her breath. She quickly turned around and jumped into the air, ready to rush towards the dense jungle behind the thatched house, but her figure suddenly stopped. She tilted her head and stared at the dense forest in front of her, feeling the slowly flowing spiritual energy within. Her forehead instantly covered in black lines. She remembered the more than 10 embarrassing experiences of being trapped in it in the past half a year. If she hadn't known what was in front of her, she wouldn't have been able to see the 28 visible formations and 76 hidden formations here, all of which were interlocking trapping and maze formations. Where is the life gate? Did I really help set this up? This side doesn't seem right. Or is it this side? Formations are so annoying. Changshou, come out quickly, or I'll demolish your mountain. A breeze blew through the forest, causing the trees to sway gently, and the spiritual energy within began to flow more freely. Changshou's voice came with the wind. The formation has been resolved. I am guarding the pill furnace and it's inconvenient to come out to greet you. Jiu blinked, carefully probed forward for more than 10 meters, and only after finding that she was still safe, did she angrily fly straight towards the center of the dense forest. There, a small, elegant building stood quietly, with strands of pure energy wafting out of it, and the fresh scent of medicine was everywhere in the forest. This little building is 10 zhang high, divided into 2 floors. From a distance, it resembles the shape of a large gourd. The inspiration for the chief designer, Changshou, must have come from Jiu's accompanying magic weapon, the evil-slaying sword that is the large gourd that can enlarge or shrink, capable of carrying people and flying in the sky. The small building stands in a pool, facing a well 80 zhang away from the front door, with the pool and well connected by a waterway. If viewed from the air, a Tai Chi diagram with a diameter of 100 zhang is embedded in the forest. The pool is in the shape of yin and yang fish, and the small building and the well are the 2 yin and yang eyes. This is a feng shui array that can suppress luck and drive away evil spirits. Moreover, the door to immortality belongs to the human sect, and the yin and yang Tai Chi diagram also has its say. Upon landing in front of the small building, one can see a wooden sign with 5 big characters written on it. If you look closely, there are 2 vertical lines of small characters below the wooden sign. Simply put, this is a certified standard building. Upon entering the front door, a wooden screen is immediately in front of you, and behind the screen is a large furnace 6 zhang high. This furnace occupies a very large area, wide at the bottom and narrow at the top, forged from large pieces of purple gold, engraved with lucky clouds and hundreds of medicines, and has many restrictions. However, the upper half of the furnace has a lot of patches, which makes it look a bit shabby. This was originally a discarded furnace, but only the upper half of the furnace exploded, and Changshou used Lingyu to pull strings and exchanged it back in the 100 Van Hall, and then spent half a year repairing it, and it could finally be used again. The furnace has 3 legs, 2 ears, a round belly, and windows in the shape of yin and yang fish on all 4 sides. The main restrictions such as the fire condensation array and the spirit balancing array below are all intact. After Changshou's repair, the power of this furnace is only 30% less than that of the original one without damage. What's more, getting this furnace basically didn't cost anything. Large pieces of purple gold can suppress the medicinal properties of most spiritual medicines, and this furnace is now considered the most valuable treasure on Little Cheong Peak. The entire small building is built around the furnace. Around the furnace are several rows of shelves, filled with large and small jade bottles, gourds, and jade boxes, which also contain many elixirs and miraculous medicines produced by this furnace, but they are all common types. This place was tidied up by Lan Lingyi and was very neat. This little junior sister was also in closed-door cultivation, striving to improve her cultivation realm. When Jiu jumped in from outside, Changshou, dressed in a light blue robe, was standing next to the furnace, with more than a dozen light golden pills floating in his palm, experiencing the insights from the pill refining just now. Little Changshou, what new pills have you refined again? Jiu curiously leaned in. Do you want to try the newly refined clear heart condensing spirit pill, Uncle Master? I've tweaked the taste a bit, and the effect should be good. Changshou casually asked. 2 spirit pills slowly flew to Jiu's face, and Jiu directly swallowed them into her mouth, chewing them with a crunch, and soon let out a burp, exhaling a fresh fragrance. So sweet. Jiu stretched out her right hand. Give me a few more. Changshou casually grabbed a white jade porcelain bottle and put all the pills into it, and handed the porcelain bottle to Jiu. Jiu's small hand still didn't retract. This month's immortal drunk and beauty charm. Don't worry, I won't forget about you, uncle. Changshou laughed lightly and honestly handed over 2 palm-sized jade pots. Jiu couldn't wait to open it and take a sniff, letting out a quite satisfied sigh. Good, Changshou, your pill refining skills are now on par with your wine brewing skills. Is there anything you need me to help with today? You haven't been setting up formations for the past 2 months. I can't always eat and drink here for free. I don't need it today, Changshou laughed. In 20 days, I want to start refining a more difficult immortal pill, and I'd like to ask Uncle to come and help. Jiu slapped her chest quite happily, and the hemp cloth short coat shook lightly. No problem, leave it to me. In 20 days, right? Yes, in 20 days, Li Changshou said solemnly, the pill I'm refining this time is very important to me, and once I start preparing, I can't stop. If you don't have any free time then, uncle, please let me know in advance. Also, I don't know if uncle can keep this matter a secret from me. What kind of pill is it? Why so mysterious? A poison pill called Fusion Immortal. Jojo was also surprised. Fusion Immortal pill, isn't this thing said to be able to poison real immortals? I seem to have heard fifth junior brother mention this thing a long time ago. What are you refining this for? Li Changshou laughed. Poison is also a kind of medicinal property, just like vegetables have sour, sweet, and spicy flavors. Poison pills can be used to kill people, but they can also be used to save people. Uncle, don't worry, I don't have any enemies, I love the life of cultivation, and I won't do anything that harms heaven and earth. If the Fusion Immortal pill can be successfully refined, I will use a year's quota of beauty charm as a thank you gift, and it will be outside the agreement. Deal. Jojo stretched out her right hand and clenched it into a fist in front of Li Changshou. Li Changshou raised his hand and bumped fists with her lightly. Jojo immediately smiled. I'll come over again in 20 days. Take care, uncle. In the laughter, Jojo sat on the large gourd and soared into the sky, flying into the air of Little Cheong Peak. She looked back, but saw that the forest she had just flown out of had started to fog up. In almost an instant, the mist enveloped the entire forest, but a breeze blew by, and the white mist disappeared without a trace. The dense forest within a radius of 30 li seemed to have no change from before, but Jojo knew that the many large formations inside had already started to operate. In the future, if I want to tease 7th junior brother and 8th junior brother, I can trick them into coming here. Jojo muttered to herself in a low voice, but then thought of Li Changshou's always serious face. I still have to give this guy a heads up, otherwise he will start talking about some great principles again. Shaking his head, Jojo, carrying a large gourd, took off and quickly returned to the back mountain of Petit Peak. He flew into several overlapping large formations, his figure disappearing from sight. That was the place where Wuqing Shang Ren's 9 disciples practiced in seclusion, with a series of continuous loft buildings built according to the mountain terrain. Although the 9 immortals of alcohol were just a branch of Petit Peak, even the lowest cultivation and shortest entrance time of them, Jojo, was a true immortal, and their treatment was naturally incomparable to that of Qi Yuan and his 2 disciples. This place had not only an excellent array for gathering spirits but also many miscellaneous disciples. Several protective arrays forbidden by the sect rules were set up around the lofts, making it an ideal place for cultivation. Jojo was the youngest and was quite favored by his elder brothers and sisters. His residence was close to Jiu Wu and was vaguely guarded by the residences of his other elder brothers and sisters. If Jojo closed up for cultivation, others would naturally take up the guarding position under the covert gaze of several miscellaneous disciples. Jojo flew back to the loft by himself, kicked off the cloth shoes on his feet, jumped barefoot onto the bed made of carved jade, hugged 2 jade pots he had just got, and giggled. Who should I drink first, you or you? Xiao Shosho really did a great job. He managed to make such a good thing. 3 years are almost over. The Han River liquor that he buried before is about to be unearthed. I must have a good drink then. SSS, today I will favor Jiren Mei first. Cough cough cough. Outside the loft, a dwarf Taoist who was 5 feet tall coughed for a while. Jojo, who was lying on the bed, immediately covered the 2 jade pots in his hands and stared vigilantly outside. After seeing who was coming, he breathed a sigh of relief. 5 elder brother, you could just come in. I didn't activate the formation. I was just scolded by the eldest sister. We may be familiar, but we should respect each other, Jiu Wu said with a smile. He took 2 steps forward and then suddenly stopped. There was no place to set foot. Looking at the messy liquor jars, short shirts, and belly bands thrown around, Jiu Wu patted his forehead and complained, Xiao Jiu, you are hundreds of years old, and you don't even know how to clean up your room. Jojo sniffed a few times and waved his hand. There is no strange smell, it's fine. She casually put the jade pot into her storage magic treasure and sat cross-legged on the bed. Jiu Wu struggled to clear a path through the pile of debris on the ground and sat down next to the low table, murmuring a few times. You've been going to Shao Cheong Peak quite frequently recently, Jiu Wu said with a smile. What are you doing there? Playing. What else? Jojo blinked. Why are you suddenly asking this, 5 elder brother? Nothing, nothing, Jiu Wu waved his hand repeatedly, then scratched his head. He thought of the task given by several sisters and was a little speechless for a while. How to say this? He couldn't directly ask his little sister if she had a crush on someone from Shao Cheong Peak. Jiu Wu rallied. Cough. I remember that in the first few decades after you entered the sect, you were quite close to Qi Yuan from Shao Cheong Peak. Yes, Jojo nodded. Qi Yuan elder brother took great care of me at that time. Jiu Wu was hesitant to speak. Then you are, 5 elder brother, what's wrong with you today? You are hesitating. I am, Jiu Wu stomped his foot. Then I will just ask directly. Recently, you have been running to Shao Cheong Peak every day. Even when you were punished to abstain from alcohol, you are still so energetic. All your elder sisters were wondering if, what? You, me. Jojo frowned deeply, her eyes full of confusion. Jiao Wu drew a breath, his courage surged, turning into a question. Are you about to break through or something? How can it be so easy to break through? Jojo rolled her eyes. Tell my elder sisters not to worry, if I encounter a bottleneck, I will ask you for advice. I won't rush to break through recklessly. That's good, then I'll go first, you continue to cultivate. Jiao Wu fled in a hurry, got up and walked quickly to the door, then turned back and asked, by the way, Xiao Jiao, the 2 nests of spiders you brought back from Shaoqiong Peak were killed by me. Ask that Long Shu nephew if he has any more, I will exchange them with him for treasures and elixirs. Okay, I got it, I will ask for you next time I go there. Jiao Wu smiled slightly. TSK, ever since Jojo brought back a nest of 3-headed compound-eyed spiders 2 years ago, he got the spider silk that could see things from a distance, and his life suddenly became much more fun, especially when he placed the spider silk near the pool where his Taoist partner often bathed. That scene, TSK tisk, Jiao Wu walked away quickly with the wind at his feet. Why is 5 elder brother so weird today? Never mind, he must have quarreled with 4 elder sister. Jojo shook her head, then activated the formation outside the loft, lay on the bed, took out the 2 jade pots, and continued to fall into the happy dilemma. Shaoqiong Peak, in the elixir room. Li Changshou stood in front of the elixir furnace, having already put in the medicinal materials for the next batch of elixirs. He turned and walked towards the cushion on the left. He held a jade card in his left hand, carefully sensing the changes in the formation, and after confirming again and again that there was no danger, he casually activated the elixir furnace prohibition. Several flames appeared in the elixir furnace. He then sat down on the cushion to the left of the elixir furnace, but as he was about to sit down, a wisp of green smoke exploded around him, and his figure instantly disappeared, leaving only a paper man. The paper man in the green smoke turned into Li Changshou's appearance in the blink of an eye, and this wisp of green smoke quickly seeped into the small hole under the cushion and disappeared. The illusion technique, Qi Yuan's specialty, his eldest disciple naturally learned it a long time ago. Even now, he can transform more things than his master. Uncle Jojo is just too perfect. Transformed into a wisp of green smoke, he quickly drifted downwards through the narrow crevices, winding and twisting. Li Changshou felt the formation he passed one after another, a slight sense of satisfaction rising in his heart. What makes perfection? Jojo doesn't understand formations. His cultivation is at the true immortal realm, not far from the celestial immortal realm. His foundation is solid, his celestial power is extremely pure, and his control over his celestial power is unexpectedly strong. Most importantly, he allows himself to be manipulated by a junior like me. To say manipulation is a bit too much. Li Changshou admits that there is an element of deception in it, but it's a mutually beneficial situation. Uncle Jojo has indeed done me a great favor this time. Thank you to the elder of the reward and punishment hall who punished Uncle Jojo to quit drinking. Thank you to Uncle Jojo's Uncle Jowu, who bathed him in a wine jar when he was a child. Thanks to the few torn sheepskin scrolls I found on the bookshelf in the corner of the outer hall of the Daozong Hall, I successfully experimented with main battle hypnotic drugs including God's Drunk and Soft Immortal Scattering. The wisp of green smoke sank about 100 feet and stopped in a narrow crevice in the rock layer. Returning to human form. Li Changshou took out the jade card that controlled the formation from his hand, and lightly slid his fingers across it a few times, causing a slight change in the pattern on the jade card. At the same time, the rock in front of him began to ripple like water. Li Changshou stepped into it, and the rock immediately returned to its original form. Li Changshou walked a few steps within this large stone, and a small wooden door suddenly appeared in front of him. Pushing it open, he entered a room about 3 feet square, and walked straight to his wooden table. He took out the jade card and gently rotated it, causing a slight change in the surrounding formation, and this small underground room completely disappeared within the various formations. No matter from which direction, even if a celestial immortal intentionally searches, they cannot detect the existence of this secret chamber without breaking the formation outside. Men, after all, need a secret space. The secret room contained 2 bookshelves, stacked with ancient books and scrolls. Li Changshou sat directly behind the desk, took out dozens of sheepskin scrolls and looked at them carefully, then took out the jade card and held it in his hand, then closed his eyes. A complex 3-dimensional structure emerged in his mind. It was like a skyscraper he often saw in the city in his previous life, but this skyscraper was embedded on Little Cheong Peak. He took a deep breath. I miss this feeling of security. Li Changshou's mouth curled up in a slight smile. It would be nice to take a bath here. Just kidding, let's continue to check the layout of the grand formation. Thanks to Uncle Jojo's high cultivation level, I was able to realize the idea I had been preparing for decades, a 3-dimensional compound formation, using 2 years of time. With the help of Jojo, Li Changshou put his ideas about the way of formation into practice step by step. In Jojo's understanding, she helped Li Changshou set up hundreds of medium and small formations, and these formations were interconnected, vaguely forming a natural formation, covering a radius of 30 miles. Around the Dan room, the combination of Li Changshou and Jojo is equivalent to this grand formation being set up by a powerful true immortal, and it cannot be broken except by a celestial immortal, and it must be a celestial immortal who has a certain understanding of the way of formation. But Jojo only knows 1, but not 2, 3, 4. The mainstream formations are all based on various treasures, spirit stones, and specially refined treasures as the formation base. The bases are interconnected to form different effects of grand formation. The way of formation is vast and profound, and Li Changshou also knows that the formations he masters are not many and not too profound, but he always has some wild ideas in his mind, and he will repeatedly verify them and realize these ideas one by one. About 67 years ago, Li Changshou studied the formations left by the immortal gate during his leisure time in cultivation, and accidentally discovered that the mainstream common formations in Honghuang, most of the formation bases are distributed on a horizontal plane. If the formation base is distributed vertically, the effect is actually the same. Taking the dome-shaped mountain protection grand formation as an example, if the formation base is distributed vertically, the semi-dome will also rotate 90 degrees. Of course, the mountain protection grand formation mostly draws on the power of the earth veins, and it is impossible to arrange it with a vertical distribution, but non-defensive formations, maze formations, trap formations, and killing formations can be freely rotated. On this basis, what if the formation base is distributed diagonally? What if several grand formations crisscross each other? Suppose, two grand formations, one vertical and one horizontal, share 1/3 of the formation base. When the horizontal grand formation is opened, the vertical grand formation is closed. When the vertical grand formation is opened, the horizontal grand formation is closed. In this way, the grand formation can be switched without interference. As Li Changshou continued to explore, he gradually solved the problem of spirit power circulation within the formation, as well as the applicability of different formation bases. Until today, in terms of the horizontal grand formation, this place is divided into 3 layers, and Jojo only knows the top layer. The formation around the Dan room, that is, more than 100 trap formations and maze formations. What Jojo doesn't know is that there are middle and lower layers at intervals of 100 feet deep into the mountain, and the core formation bases of the middle and lower layers were also buried by Jojo, but this is only when the formation bases operate horizontally. These formation bases also hide countless vertical and diagonal schemes, which contain many killing formations. The secret chamber where Li Changshou was located was at the center of all the formation bases. It would only appear within the rock layer when several vertical arrays were activated and several horizontal arrays were reversed. To reach this place, even if one has mastered Earth Escape technique to perfection, without the jade card in Li Changshou's hand and the special control method, the only way would be to directly split the small Cheong Peak. If the day comes when the mountain must be split, it is likely that the Du Xian sect would be at the brink of life and death. But before that, Li Changshou would, 9 times out of 10, cough. There's no point in coexisting or dying with the sect. It's more righteous to preserve his useful body for the sake of avenging his sect. By the way, the main function of the lower formation base is actually to draw on the power of the Earth's meridians. In order not to draw too much from the Earth's and spiritual meridians, thus alerting other Qi practitioners of the peaks or attracting the attention of the sect's higher-ups. Li Changshou deliberately avoided all spiritual meridians, directly drawing on the turbid power of the earth, and then filtering the spiritual energy through the purification formation. Although this would slightly reduce the power of the killing formation, it was more secure. Moreover, even if a master within the sect noticed the many formations he had set up on the small Cheong Peak, as long as he did not activate the vertical and diagonal plans, they were just some trapping and confusing formations, and there was no violation of the sect rules. In the past, he used ordinary as a disguise. This was passive camouflage. Because he now needs to use the alchemy room for alchemy, he was forced to operate and actively disguised himself to the extreme of his current stage. The future development direction based on the numerous formation bases under the alchemy room, slowly expand outward, and turn the small Cheong Peak into an inconspicuous internal fortress of the Xianmen. Life only happens once. The primordial era is so wonderful. As a Qi practitioner, we should seek longevity and stability, inquire about the great Tao, and appreciate the beauty of the world in every corner of the 3,000 worlds. Finally, Li Changshou rubbed his hands, put away the parchment roll and jade card, took out several storage treasure bags, and poured out several storage treasures from them. The unexpected gains from the trip to the northern Ju Luzhou, after waiting for 2 years, can finally be accounted for. Let's see how poor this immortal, Yu Wenling, is. Li Changshou chuckled, took out 2 paper men to transform into clones, let these 2 clones hold 2 storage treasures, and began to slowly refine them in the corner. Half a day later, when the paper man guarding the alchemy furnace was about to exhaust his magical power, Li Changshou had also finished sorting out the spoils of war and got up to leave the secret room. He held a brocade box in his hand, in which lay 2 sleeping beetles. If he guessed correctly, this thing should be a love bug. Good stuff, Li Changshou praised, but it's a pity that there's no use for it right now. Let's keep it in the future. If the immortal birds and beasts I raise have no urge to reproduce, I can use this thing to stimulate them, increase the offspring production, and save some rare species. When it came to the agreed-upon day to help with alchemy, Jojo, yawning, wearing a linen short shirt that was cleaned by some senior sister, sat on the big gourd with sleepy eyes, and flew towards the small Cheong Peak in a daze. As a main force true immortal within the sect, with strong support behind her, she had no restrictions when flying, and could fly wherever she wanted, except for forbidden areas. Today is the 20th day, right? Jiu counted with her fingers, and was somewhat confused. Previously, because she was seeking excitement, she tasted a sip of the divine drunken essence and ended up sleeping for 5 or 6 days. She didn't deliberately spread her divine consciousness when she was on her way, so she didn't notice the cloud of fog floating above the forest below. When Jiu arrived at the small Chong peak, 2 heads popped out of the cloud below, with the dwarf Taoist Jiu Wu on the left and a girl who looked to be 16 or 17 on the right. Although she looked like a young girl, with a beautiful face and curvaceous figure, full of youthful vitality. In fact, the 2 of them were about the same age, both over 2,000 years old. The girl was Taoist Jiu Shi, the 4th disciple of the forgetful upper person, Jiu Wu's Tao partner, and the immortal who Jiu Wu often observed secretly with the silk of his 3-headed, 6-eyed spider. Jiu Wu whispered, "It's not quite right for us to do this. After all, this is the small Chong peak. What's there to be afraid of? If we're not satisfied, we can fight with the peak master here." The girl retorted unhappily, then slightly squinted her apricot eyes. "Just woke up and ran here. There must be a problem. Have you ever seen Xiao Jiu so diligent? Today I want to see what this Qi Yuan junior brother is capable of, not yet immortal, but able to make our Xiao Jiu come here every day." Jiu Wu immediately gave a wry smile, suddenly raised his thick short eyebrows. "There's also a formation here, can't sense Xiao Jiu's breath anymore." "What's there to fear about a formation? Who hasn't learned a thing or two about them?" Jiu Shi curled her lips, casually grabbed Jiu Wu's collar, said nothing more, hit her figure and breath, transformed into 2 shadows, and flew towards the forest of the small Chong peak. "Are the 2 of us, half-step celestials, afraid of the formations set by those who have not yet become immortals?" Sure sister, I say, madam, it's really not right for us to sneak in. Why not visit directly? Can't we just ask openly if there's something?" In the small Chong peak forest, 2 shadows suddenly stopped, revealing 2 figures, one tall and one short, who were still running the technique to avoid the detection of divine sense. Jiu Wu was standing in front of his taller companion, pleading earnestly, "Little Jiu has grown up, we can't always keep her tied to us. After all, she's a 962 years, 6 months and 15 days old immortal, definitely not a child anymore." The one who was blocked by his companion, Jiu Shi, rolled his eyes slightly, snorted and said, "What can you ask directly? For this kind of thing, of course, we have to sneak over to see the real situation. Have you forgotten about little 6 and little 7? How did we find out about them? If we hadn't caught them in the bed, they would definitely still deny it. Hide quickly, don't expose our traces." With a stomp of his foot, Jiu Shi grabbed Jiu Wu's collar with his slender hand and lifted him up directly. The 2 figures once again turned into 2 shadows and disappeared into the forest. Jiu Wu could only give a bitter smile. Even though he prided himself on his wisdom, he had no strategy in front of the woman he loved. However, they hadn't traveled 100 feet before they had to stop again. The figures of the 2 appeared on the branch of a big tree, carefully looking forward. "This array is quite cleverly arranged," Jiu Wu praised. "The boundary of the array is almost completely integrated with the surrounding environment, it's just that the handling of the corners is not meticulous enough, revealing a bit of spiritual power fluctuation." Jiu Shi tilted her head, the small braids made from the 2 strands of hair in front of her forehead swaying gently. She took a careful look and then dismissively said, "A mere lost god array, how could it bother us? Let's go, into the array. Judging by your expression, do you want to sleep in bed tonight or not?" Hearing this threat, Jiu Wu quickly conceded defeat, hurriedly saying, yes, naturally I want to, it's rare that you come out of seclusion once." "Alright, I'll go first, I'll take responsibility if anything happens." Jiu Wu sighed, quickly submitting to Jiu Shi's tyranny, jumped down from the tree first, walking in front with his hands behind his back, scanning all around somewhat absent-mindedly. What he was thinking now was not whether he could break the array. In fact, he didn't even put the array of small Chong peak in his eyes. After all, there wasn't even an immortal in small Chong peak. How powerful could the array they set up be? What he was thinking now was, what if they really stumbled upon little Jiu and junior brother Qi Yuan later? The scene would definitely be incredibly awkward. Especially junior brother Qi Yuan probably won't be able to pass the heavenly tribulation. Would their little junior sister have to become a widow just after finding her Tao companion? How could this be good? "Walk faster," Jiu Shi urged from behind. "If you dawdle like this, we'll be too late when we get there." "Don't worry, I found the exit to the array." Jiu Wu quickly calculated the exit of this array and took Jiu Shi out of the first illusion array, but with that, Jiu Wu stopped, raised his left hand, and made a stop gesture. It's a chain array after all." Jiu Wu immediately laughed, stroking his chin in admiration. Although they are all relatively simple illusion arrays, they can form a chain array. The person who set up this array has a good understanding of array techniques. Talkative. Jiu Shi hummed, stepped forward 2 steps ahead of her junior brother. Her divine sense spread out, she quickly found the exit of this array, and coolly said, "Keep up." Jiu Wu smiled helplessly, following his lover and senior sister, still thinking about how to end it if they really stumbled upon something later. Meanwhile, in the pill room tens of miles away, Li Changshou, who was sorting out the poisonous herbs and spiritual medicines in front of him, slightly furrowed his brows, glanced at Jojo, who was meditating and adjusting her breath, without making a sound, pondering in his heart, but didn't say much. The one next to Uncle Jiu Wu should also be one of the 9 Jiu immortals, right? Just right, these two can help him test the actual effect of the surface illusion array. Uncle Jiu. Yes, are we starting? We'll have to wait a while, Li Changshou smiled. If someone asks you what you've been doing here all this time after you returned to Broken Sky Peak, you can just tell them the truth. However, the specific arrangement of the array here and the number of arrays would be best kept secret for me. Don't worry, I understand the principle. Jojo patted her chest forcefully, causing waves to ripple. I'm not the kind of person who takes advantage and doesn't do the work. Given that you've just bestowed so many beauties, I promise to keep my mouth shut. Li Changshou responded with a smile and continued to adjust the quantity of various herbs. The melting immortal pill, it's finally time to start the furnace. However, it's better to wait until the 2 true immortals outside leave. In the forest. Half an hour after the 2 true immortals of the Jiu character generation entered the array. You break the array, Jiu muttered. I mainly cultivate in refining tools. I'm always not as good as you and third brother in the way of arrays. Jiu Wu smiled calmly, walked in front of his lover with his hands behind his back, the manly spirit bursting out from his not tall body. Stick with me. This array is called the Spirit Transcendence 6 Turns Array. It's actually a relatively basic illusion array, it's just that the life gate is set a bit weird, the life gate is above. Before he finished speaking, Jiu Wu had already found the exit of the array, took Jiu Shi and jumped into the next array. The surroundings instantly turned upside down. Another half an hour later. Strange, it seems like we've just gone around in a circle. Jiu Wu's face gradually became serious, calculating with his fingers. The 24 arrays we just passed through are interconnected, but 24 small chain arrays are equivalent to a hidden large array. Relying on the guidance of the life gate, it directly brought us back to the original place. This way of setting up the array is a bit tricky, it's not sophisticated, but it's very interesting, yes, very interesting. Jiu Shi held her forehead in one hand, complaining, how long has it been since the solution? Based on your usual timing, this is 3 or 4 times the time. Ahem, Jiu Wu cleared his throat. Well then, I'll get serious, follow me. Right now, he reached back and grabbed his lover, quickly stepped into the illusion array again, and their figures quickly disappeared into the dense forest. An hour later, this doesn't make sense, it shouldn't be like this. Jiu Wu sat in a place filled with fallen leaves, his hands constantly calculating. Jiu Shi paced back and forth, his fingers stroking his slightly pointed, beautiful chin, his mouth constantly muttering some mantras known to the array, but at this moment it was of no help. The problem now was not how to find Jojo in the grand array as soon as possible. The most critical issue now was that they had already lost their way in the chain array. Even if they tried to fly straight up or climb down, they would enter another maze again and again. They couldn't even find an exit to retreat. Jiu Shi suggested, why don't we blast this grand array open? Not possible, are we here to catch people or to blast mountains? Jiu Wu bitterly smiled. Besides, if this gets out, where will our faces be when we, husband and wife, are trapped in a little Cheong peak without a fairy guarding it? Jiu Shi complained, aren't you good at array? These are indeed very basic arrays, but the chain array has no fixed solution, it can only be constantly explored and cracked, or the flaws between the arrays and the arrays can be found, but the person who set up the array here has hidden the flaws too perfectly. Jiu Wu slapped his forehead. Let's go, I have thought of a way to break the array, let's try again. So, another hour later, about 5 feet off the ground, a flat forehead constantly collided with the trunk of a big tree. This short Taoist man's eyes were sunken in, his normally bright eyes were now full of gloom, his brown robe was dotted with some dry grass and fallen leaves, and his whole body was trembling. He hit the tree trunk with his forehead again, let out 2 cold laughs, and muttered. It's fake, right? The way of array that I have understood before must be fake, right? It turns out that the basic array can form the most clever maze and trap. It turns out that I have taken so many wrong paths that my way also wrong? The way of non-action is also wrong, right? It turns out that I am just this level of real fairy, Jiu Shi was at a loss for words, not knowing what to say. He hurriedly knelt down on one knee and hugged his Tao companion. Don't scare me, disciple brother, let's just blast the grand array open. No, absolutely not. The person who can set up such a grand array, how could he not be prepared for such a direct attack? Maybe it will immediately turn into a killing array, senior sister. Jiu Wu's lips trembled, he looked up at the beautiful fairy in front of him, and gave a wry smile. It turns out that I have never been worthy of you. Jiu Shi immediately hugged Jiu Wu tighter. Don't say such things, we have sworn to the great Tao that we will never leave each other forever. I am not worthy. Hue breeze gently brushed past, and the forest was suddenly covered with white fog, but the fog quickly retreated. At the same time, the two heard a conversation coming from not far away. Uncle Joe, let's start rehearsing once, and later I will throw these two herbs into the furnace, and you will, okay, no problem. Jiao Wu and Jiao Shi looked at each other, and the latter immediately used a spell to turn the two into two shadows, fleeing towards the direction of the sound. Soon, the two found out that the place where they were just now was only 100 feet away from Jiao Jiao, whom they were looking for. Hiding behind a big tree, the two peeked out quietly at the alchemy room. Because the alchemy was about to start, the windows on both sides of the alchemy room were open, and from the angle of Jiao Wu and the others, they could just see Li Changshou and Jiao Jiao, who were discussing something in front of the alchemy furnace. It was almost dusk unknowingly, and a strand of slanting sunlight shone on Jiao Jiao through the window. She stood with her hands behind her back, her left foot tiptoeing on the ground, her body slightly leaning forward, listening carefully to the detailed steps of alchemy later explained by the slender figure in front of her. I and the sunlight, the tips of her hair that had just fallen on her shoulders were glowing, her skin was also glowing and moist, and her eyes that were like stars were even clearer. The slender neck, the clavicle that was just right, the simple linen short shirt could hardly suppress the capital that was about to burst, the thin waist that was hidden under the shirt, the long and slender legs under the short skirt. Her skin was as flawless as white jade, exuding a rare aura of spirit and beauty. And next to her, the male cultivator dressed in a blue robe, with long hair simply tied up with a headband. Jiao Wu muttered in a low voice with a puzzled look, could it be that the array of nephew Changshou here? Before he finished his words, his mouth was immediately covered by a slender hand. Hush, Jiao Shi whispered, let's go, let's talk about it when we get back, don't disturb them. Jiao Wu was immediately puzzled, are we leaving now? What else? Say he's quite handsome, this junior. He seems quite reliable, it's just that his cultivation is only in the return to void realm, but that's not a problem. Jiao Shi smiled slightly, pulling Jiao Wu to start using the stealth Dao technique. Just then, a tender green leaf left home, swaying and falling on Jiao Wu's head, finally left. Li Changshou breathed a sigh of relief in his heart, reopened the grand array around him, and checked the various parts of the grand array several times again. Good, nothing was exposed, the effect of the trap array was surprisingly good, and the information that the trap array itself transmitted to the intruder also met Li Changshou's original expectations. Let's start alchemy, he said, then turned and walked to an open space next to him, took out the treasure bag marked with Xian 11, shook it in front of him, and a bunch of items fell to the ground. Items that looked like spacesuits, gloves that could withstand most poisonous corrosion, charms to avoid poison, elixir to detoxify, corrosion-resistant tweezers, clamps, containers with strange shapes. What are these? Jiao Jiao asked curiously. Some necessary precautions when refining poison pills, Li Changshou replied with a smile. I have also prepared a set for you, uncle, let's put them on together. Although uncle's immortal power is profound, poison is something that can penetrate everywhere, so it's better to be careful. Okay, little nephew is quite considerate of this uncle. Jiao Jiao blinked, full of curiosity as she came over from the side. Sigh, my old back, the Taoist lamented. Indeed, without the aid of immortal power, even a true immortal's body can't withstand it. And I'm not the type to cultivate the physical body. But using immortal power takes away much of the fun. It's truly a dilemma. Jiao Wu, clutching his waist, gently swayed his 5-foot-tall Taoist body in front of his residence. His immortal power slightly activated, the fatigue was already gone. It was now 3 days after he and Jiao Shi had returned from Shaoqiong Peak. Having just sent his Taoist companion back to seclusion, the short Taoist, though exhausted, was refreshed and had a slight sense of satisfaction on his face. At this moment, a large gourd descended from the sky. Jiao Wu was immediately energized, promptly put his hands behind his back, and regained his usual serious demeanor. He cleared his throat and called out loudly, Xiaojiao, come over to your elder brother. Brother, I was just looking for you. I've brought back the thing you wanted. Jiao, who had been yawning and looking tired, peered out from the large gourd. The gourd turned a corner and landed directly in front of Jiao Wu's loft. Among the 9 siblings, except for Jiao, who was exceptionally talented and had the highest cultivation among their peers, they all had their own side businesses. Jiao Shi was good at refining tools and forging treasures, while Jiao Wu was good at brewing alcohol and refining elixirs. Therefore, the ground floor of Jiao Wu's loft was filled with wine jars, precious materials, and alchemical furnaces, all neatly arranged. Evidently, Jiao had learned the habit of not tidying up from here, but had amplified it a bit. Yawning again, Jiao sat down at a round table as if she was at home. She tossed a small cage she had been carrying to Jiao Wu. Your little spiders, brother. Don't kill them this time. It's quite shameful for me to ask a junior for something all the time. Surprisingly, you haven't forgotten about this. Jiao Wu opened the black cloth covering the wooden cage and glanced inside, his face immediately lighting up with joy. Inside were a pair of spiders, separated from each other, each as big as a meat bun, with 3 heads and multiple eyes. Jiao yawned tiredly. Brother, if you have nothing else, I'll go back. Hold on, I'll find a few things. Jiao Wu quickly hung the spiders in a cool place, then ran to a bookshelf. Jiao lay down on the table with a look of despair. What are you doing, brother? I'm so tired now, I want to go back, drink something and sleep for a few days. Tired, Jiuwu, who was by a bookshelf, turned his head and looked carefully at Jojo. He remembered that he was now unable to see through his younger sister's cultivation, let alone her physical condition, but thinking of the scene he had seen in the small pill room, Jiuwu sighed inwardly, feeling a fatherly sadness. Well, a girl can't stay forever. Under the prevailing trend of having a Taoist partner within the sect, his little sister was inevitably affected by this trend. Where did this trend come from? It started from the older generation of immortals. Among the more than 10 elders of the Taoist sect, there were 4 pairs of loving and white-haired Taoist partners. They set the example for the younger generations, and nobody could compare. Jojo sighed somewhat helplessly, thinking of her experience of refining poison pills with a certain nephew in the past few days. Although it was interesting and novel, and the nephew also gave her plenty of benefits and shared many poison pills that could harm true immortals with her, but she had to be on high alert all the time and couldn't relax, which was indeed quite exhausting for her. She had never been so tired before, and Jojo murmured, "It's just a little guy in the returning void realm, but he's worn me out so much. I'm so tired." Clatter, the jade card in Jiuwu's hand accidentally slipped onto the ground. The short Taoist looked up and sighed deeply, his eyes slightly moist. Little Jiu has really grown up. His half-fatherly fifth elder brother finally had to let her go and enjoy the beautiful cultivation life. Picking up the jade card, Jiuwu looked at the few big characters written on it, Array Method Compendium by Forgetful Hermit. He also took out 2 jade cards from the corner of the bookshelf, then turned and walked toward Jojo. "Xiaozhou, please bring these things to our nephew Changshou." Jiuwu handed the jade cards to Jojo with a gentle smile. "These are the fundamental principles of array methods written by our master, as well as some insights into array methods that your third elder brother and I have researched over the years." Jojo took the jade cards and threw them into her storage artifact, puzzled. "Why are you suddenly so concerned about little Changshou?" "Little Changshou? Isn't this the nickname she and Zayashishi only used when they were in love?" Jiuwu took a deep breath, then showed a kindly smile again, saying softly, "After seeing him in Beizhou last time, I felt that Changshou was a very stable young man. By the way, your fourth elder sister has made you a few new dresses." Jiuwu took out a treasure bag and handed it to Jojo. "There are also some rouge and powder for women, as well as some jewelry. If you like them, let your elder sister help you refine more." "What kind of dress?" Jojo took the treasure bag and casually refined it. She pulled out a light gauze dress and suddenly hung a few black lines on her forehead. "When have I ever worn something like this?" Cough, don't blame your brother for being nosy, but despite your natural beauty, you should also dress up a bit. By the way, you and Changshou, did you start in these 2 years? What do you mean, start? Jojo glanced at Jiuwu, then frowned and pouted. She shoved the gauze dress back into the treasure bag and asked incredulously, "You guys don't think that I'm dating little Changshou, do you?" Jiuwu was taken aback. "Aren't you?" "Ugh," Jojo instantly pulled a face in disgust. "What do you think your junior sister is? Am I the kind of person who would take advantage of my junior nephew? I could never do such a thing as an old bull eating tender grass." Jiuwu's eyes widened. "Then what have you been doing at Little Cheong Peak these past 2 years?" Helping with the arrangement of the array, Jojo spread his hands. "I was punished with a 3-year alcohol ban, and my nephew has some good substitutes for alcohol. As a repayment, I helped him set up the array." Jiuwu's eyes widened in surprise. "The array at Little Cheong Peak was set up by you, junior sister?" "Exactly, I did it myself." Jojo raised his eyebrows in pride, but soon confessed, "Brother, you know I have no interest in arrays. Changshou told me where to put what, and then when the array was about to form, I just slightly suppressed the surging spiritual energy. However, there's no need to set up the array anymore, and I can't just take his things for nothing, right? These few days, I've helped him refine some elixirs." "Brother, fifth brother, why is your expression so strange?" "So that's how it is." Jiuwu seemed to have an epiphany, got up and paced back and forth. "So the chain array was not set up by a mortal. No wonder they were all relatively simple mazes and traps using one's own strategy, borrowing another's hand, to have such an idea. Brilliant, brilliant indeed. This Li Changshou, although his aptitude is not top-notch, but reaching the return to the void stage within 100 years of entering the door is also of upper-middle level. If he is cultivated, becoming an immortal is not a problem. He is a material that can be made." Beside him, Jojo yawned, silently got up, lowered his head, bowed, hung his arms, and floated towards the door. "Brother, I'm going back to rest. Refining elixirs is so tiring." "Ah, little Jiu, the 3 jade plaques I gave you just now," Jiuwu hurriedly said, "give them back to me. They are treasures of our lineage. We can't just give them away." "Just a little insight and you're being stingy." Jojo rolled his eyes, casually tossed 2 porcelain bottles back. "I'll make the decision. Exchange the poison pills refined by little Shosho for your cultivation insights. This should be okay. This is a poison pill that can knock down a real immortal, and we also have a share of the effort in it. That's not just ordinary insight or poison pill." Jiao Wu caught the porcelain bottle, frowned and looked at it. Jiao had already taken advantage of this gap to float out of Jiao Wu's small building, returned to her own loft, and activated the large array outside. Jiao Wu laughed helplessly. It was fine if ninth junior sister wanted to send him away. After all, Li Changshou was also a disciple of the sect that he was enveloped by several strands of immortal power, and placed the porcelain bottle a few feet away. He opened the porcelain bottle from a distance and glanced inside, finding that there were 3 red pills in each of the 2 bottles, each emitting a faint fragrance. They are actually the bone corrosion heart erosion pill and the soul snatching death pill. The quality is not bad, although they are poison pills, they are indeed of immortal pill grade. This was also refined with the help of little Jiao. This Li Changshou, he's got something. Jiao Wu couldn't help but laugh, and then saw something on the porcelain bottle. He took the bottle closer and carefully looked at the body of the bottle, only to see that there were 2 lines of small characters written on it, and the 2 porcelain bottles combined just made up a sentence. The dwarf Taoist held the porcelain bottle and pondered for a moment, soon revealing a light smile. This little guy, he must have found out about me and sure before, so he deliberately unlocked the large array. The meaning of these 2 sentences is to explain that he and little Jiao are friends of gentlemen, so that we don't have to worry about it. He could have calculated that these 2 porcelain bottles would eventually fall into my or Shu's hands. The kind of small print on top, little Jiao would definitely not notice, and even if she did, she wouldn't care. Obviously it was for us to see, and it should have been recently melted with magic power, still leaving a trace. The implication is that he wants the poor Wei to act as if he has not discovered his unusual behavior. The dwarf Taoist put away the porcelain bottle, walked to the side of the round table with his hands behind his back, and stroked his chin in thought. Jiao Wu remembered when he found traces of Li Changshou and Yuqin Xuanya in Beizhou, and the numerous arrangements he had found within 100 miles. He looked up at his wooden cage hanging in the shade. This kind of demon spider is very difficult to raise, but there they could breed one nest after another, added to the chain array and poison pills that appeared in these few days. Jiao Wu sighed lightly. What a formidable junior, you don't show off, and even before going to Beizhou, few people in the sect had heard of your Dao name, and there was no trace of you in the rankings of the younger generation. You don't want to attract attention, you want to hide in a quiet place to cultivate, and this elder brother wouldn't want to disturb you, but as a sect administrator, I always have some concerns about you. TSK, 3 parts of mystery, a gentleman's agreement, seeing each other for 3 quarters. Unable to help but be stunned, Jiao Wu suddenly laughed helplessly. At the 3rd quarter of the hour, Jiao Wu rode a white cloud and drifted to Little Cheong Peak. At this time, the array around the elixir room had been closed, and a tall figure stood in front of the elixir room door, saluting Jiao Wu from afar. Jiao Wu immediately smiled, descended from the cloud, and before he entered the elixir room, he had already smelled a strong aroma of wine. Li Changshou saluted, disciple pays respect to elder brother. A good gentleman's agreement and 3 parts of mystery. Jiao Wu shook his head with a smile, and sighed lightly. Aren't you afraid that the poor Wei won't come and will directly take you to the punishment hall for accountability? This, Li Changshou maintained his saluting posture, and spoke slowly. Actually, the disciple was also unsure, and has been worried about this matter since he met elder brother in Beizhou, but he also knows that elder brother is highly respected and would never deliberately make things difficult for the juniors in the sect. Moreover, the disciple just doesn't want to attract attention, and has no second heart towards the immortal school, and knows the responsibility of being a disciple of the immortal school, behaves uprightly and is not afraid of accountability. Please come in and rest, elder brother. Knowing that elder brother is a master of brewing, the disciple asked junior sister to make a few dishes to go with the wine, and boldly invited elder brother to taste the wine brewed by the disciple. If elder brother has any doubts, feel free to ask tonight. The disciple will consider and answer truthfully, only hoping to dispel elder brother's doubts, so that the disciple can practice as peacefully as before. Jiao Wu nodded with a smile and walked into the elixir room with his hands behind his back. Under a window sill, in the bright moonlight, a low table was full of delicacies, and a night-light cup was already full of fine wine that was actually the Hengi water old white dry brewed for Jiao, which Li Changshou had opened a small jug in advance. The moon hung low over the western mountains. The table was in a state of disarray. Li Changshou stood in front of the Dan room, staring at the direction where Jiao Wu had left, the smile gradually fading from his face. Well, he had managed to temporarily pacify this elder. Ever since that day in Beizhou, when Jiao Wu had given him a meaningful look, Li Changshou knew that this dwarf with a meticulous mind had developed some curiosity about him. Furthermore, he had been getting close to his uncle Jiao recently, and had asked him to do many things for him, which would inevitably arouse even more interest from Jiao Wu. Curiosity and interest can easily turn into suspicion, which poses a potential threat to him. How to eliminate the threat posed by elder Jiao Wu to him? It's simple, just kill him. Cough, just kidding. He had no grievances with Jiao Wu, and Jiao Wu was powerful and well respected in the sect. If anything happened to any of the 9 immortals of Jiao, it would cause a major upheaval in the sect. To plot against Jiao Wu would be simply courting death. The best and most reliable method left was to invite this elder over for a frank conversation. In front of Jiao Wu, he made vows and promised not to do anything harmful to the sect. he also revealed a bit of his hidden cultivation, making Jiao Wu feel as if he had seen through him. In this way, not only could he stop Jiao Wu from thinking too much about him, but he could also win a bit of favor from this elder in the sect. This time, he had taken the initiative to turn a potential crisis into a bit of good fortune. Li Changshou recalled the details of his conversation with Jiao Wu, examining each frame of the mental movie in his mind. The topics of their conversation, the pace and direction of their dialogue, and even the subtle changes in their expressions and demeanor, were all things that Li Changshou had thought over repeatedly beforehand. After checking once, he was sure that he hadn't given away any additional information or given his elder any other ideas. Would any of my words have caused other misunderstandings? Li Changshou was still a bit worried, so he continued to recall the conversation, savoring every word. He also touched his cheek, recalling his previous actions and expressions, as well as the changing look in Jiao Wu's eyes. There should be no mistakes. A light pink figure appeared at the edge of his vision. Li Changshou turned to look and saw Ling Yi flying over from the forest on a cloud. Her 3,000 strands of hair danced lightly in the wind, and her light pink dress reflected the red of the flowers. She was carrying an empty bamboo basket and jumped in front of Li Changshou. Her lightly made-up face, under the illumination of the candlelight, was unspeakably pretty and charming. How did it go, brother? Did you manage to handle that elder? Barely, Li Changshou replied with a smile. Actually, this was just a small after-effect from our trip to Beizhou last time. As long as we don't go out in the future, we won't attract the attention of these elders. Lan Ling Yi blinked. Brother, how did you do it? Did you show Jiao Wu your hidden cultivation? Li Changshou glared at his junior sister, speaking in a somewhat helpless tone. I revealed some of it, otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to handle it. Haven't I told you many times not to say these things out loud? Walls have ears, and the wind has a divine sense. You haven't truly grasped half of what I've taught you in these 10 years. There might be someone with keen hearing who is eavesdropping on us. Oh, Lan Ling Yi pouted, sounding a bit upset. I didn't mean to, I was just worried about you. I'll go clean up the dishes now. She took a few steps forward with her head down, then suddenly turned around and leaned over, placing her slender hand on her brother's shoulder. She whispered in Li Changshou's ear, Brother, what level of cultivation have you reached now? Have you caught up with our master? Are you about to become an immortal? You guess. Li Changshou gave her a glance, then humming a little tune, he walked away with his hands behind his back. Lan Ling Yi made a face at Li Changshou and ran off to clean up the empty dishes. Meanwhile, on the cloud returning to the broken sky peak, this wine is quite strong, as expected of the old white dry from the Ganges. It really does go to your head. Jiao Wu's cheeks were flushed, he was slightly tipsy, and he was a bit shaky, but his eyes were still clear. He had used a technique to prevent his spirit from getting drunk. As he neared the broken sky peak, Jiao Wu chuckled, but there was a sense of emotion in his heart. This junior nephew Li Changshou, his cultivation has actually reached the 5th stage of return to void. He can rank among the top few in the current generation of disciples. To reach this stage in just over 100 years of cultivation, he is indeed a top-notch talent. What's more, his comprehension is equally astonishing. When he tested his array formation knowledge before, he understood many things at a glance. What's most rare is his excellent temperament. Compared to people like Yuan Qing, he is like the moon compared to the mud. Jiao Wu bowed his head and sighed deeply, murmuring, although he doesn't say it, how could I not guess the reason for his hiding his cultivation? During our drinking, he hesitated a few times as if he wanted to say something. Those subtle expressions he hid have already revealed his inner helplessness. The reason why junior nephew Changshou hides his cultivation must be because he doesn't want to bring more storms to the already dwindling small Cheong Peak. Even if he doesn't receive the sect's focus on cultivation, he doesn't want his junior brother Qi Yuan to have any extra trouble. A good disciple indeed, a good disciple indeed. If junior brother Qi Yuan fails in his tribulation, I should ask the eldest brother to come out of the mountain and take both Changshou and his junior sister to Broken Sky Peak. After several sighs, the Broken Sky Peak was already in sight. Jiao Wu looked at his junior sister's loft and found that she had already activated her protection array. She must be resting. I'll ask my junior sister to get some scriptures for junior nephew Changshou later. I'll go talk to the elder who passes on the techniques another day. It shouldn't be a problem for such a promising cultivator to start practicing the Wu Wei Sutra before becoming an immortal. Small Cheong Peak. Junior brother Qi Yuan has a good disciple, truly enviable. He sighed, shook his head, and returned to his own loft. He casually activated the surrounding array, floated to the bed that still had a faint fragrance, and began to meditate and cultivate. 2 days had passed since his night talk with Jiao Wu. Li Changshou was finally sure that this elder had not done anything extra. This gave him a sense of relief, and his life as a cultivator had finally returned to the calm that had lasted for 100 years. The little storms that had arisen were all because of 2 little immortal solution grasses. Now that the Rongxian pill had been refined and the storm had subsided, Li Changshou was satisfied with both the process and the result. In the afternoon, Li Changshou was in the Dan room, wrapping a Rongxian pill in a specially made sugar coat. With this, the preparation work for the first plan was completed. Then, Li Changshou looked at the 11 extra Rongxian pills that he had refined, divided them into 3 parts, and carefully put them away. This item is rarely concocted and serves as a treasure to those who have no hope of becoming immortals, aiding them in avoiding heavenly tribulations and extending their lifespan. If given the opportunity, I should visit some bustling towns and sell a few in exchange for other precious materials to construct the array's foundation. Of course, I should also keep a couple for backup, although I currently have an 80% confidence level in surviving the heavenly tribulation, and my confidence will gradually increase with more accumulation, and my junior sister's success rate in reaching the realm of immortality should be over 60%. Still, life is unpredictable, no one can be certain of what may happen in the future. Having an extra immortal fusion pill on hand would at least ensure that I can survive, even if I encounter an erratic heavenly tribulation. Leaving an immortal fusion pill for my junior sister would at least allow her to replicate the elder's life plan. As a disciple and senior brother, this is the extent of my assistance. However, looking at this immortal fusion pill, Li Changshou fell into contemplation. What if, just in case, the master cannot withstand the first heavenly tribulation and is completely annihilated by the heavenly thunder? What should he do? Although the first plan is complete, it is better to proceed with the second and third plans simultaneously. If the master suddenly has an epiphany and successfully passes the heavenly tribulation to become a normal immortal, it would be the best outcome. Sighing, Li Changshou stood up, placed the sugar-coated immortal fusion pill in his sleeve, and strolled out of the pill room. Half an hour later, Li Changshou stood at his master's retreat, cleared his throat, made a Taoist salute at the door, and said aloud, "Master, I would like to ask you some questions about cultivation. I feel ashamed for disturbing your tranquility." The wooden door was quickly opened, and Master Qi Yuan came out smiling, waving his hand at Li Changshou. "Let's go to the lake. In recent years, I have neglected your education." Li Changshou sighed slightly in his heart. The master opened the door so quickly, obviously not in a state of meditation. Is it already difficult to enter a meditative state? It seems the heavenly tribulation is not far away. At the lakeside under the willow trees, Qi Yuan took out 2 mats, and they sat facing each other. "Speak your doubts freely," Qi Yuan said softly. Then, Qi Yuan's eyes dimmed and he sighed, "If I cannot pass the heavenly tribulation, I'm afraid I won't have the opportunity to guide you like this in the future." "Master, don't say that," Li Changshou laughed, "you will definitely overcome the heavenly tribulation. Didn't you always say that if you don't even have this confidence, how can you face the trials and tribulations given by the Tao? You, with your fear of death, are actually preaching to your master." Qi Yuan scolded Li Changshou with a stern face. Li Changshou smiled and quickly moved on to the main topic, asking about his doubts during cultivation. The first 3 questions Li Changshou asked were relatively common, all difficulties encountered during the return to void stage of cultivation, and Qi Yuan answered them in detail. However, for the 4th question, Li Changshou asked, "What does it mean by the spirit returns to its spirit, the qi returns to its qi, the 5 qi are restored, and the zhou tian is as desired?" Qi Yuan was taken aback by the question and sat beside the lake in deep thought. Li Changshou didn't stop, but continued to ask 3 more advanced questions, all of which left Qi Yuan at a loss for answers. He didn't mean to embarrass his master, he simply wanted to subtly remind him that if his cultivation encountered a bottleneck, he could explore these areas. At this moment, Qi Yuan, realizing his slim chances of surviving the heavenly tribulation and wanting to guide his disciple as much as he could, was pondering his understanding of these questions, not wanting to misguide his disciple. Gradually, Qi Yuan himself fell into deep thought. After a while, Qi Yuan closed his eyes in concentration. Again, after a moment, petals began to float around Qi Yuan, a phenomenon often seen when those about to face a heavenly tribulation enter a state of meditation. However, the color of the petals around Qi Yuan was very pale, and the outline of the petals was somewhat incomplete. Li Changshou carefully set up a simple soundproof protective barrier next to his master, turned around, and went to his cottage to start working. This is the main part of the second plan, to enhance the master's own strength as much as possible and improve his understanding and interpretation of the Tao. Alas, if only he could give a small portion of his frequent epiphanies to his master. Li Changshou sighed in his heart and began to prepare the supplementary plan for this scheme. The supplementary part of the second plan is quite impressive. Li Changshou took out a bag marked Xian 32, from which he took out purple wood pieces 3 feet long and 6-7 colored metal rods 6 feet long, and started to work. The falling thunder wood, a common material used in setting up thunder arrays, can guide the power of thunder. The 7-god iron, also commonly used in setting up thunder arrays, can store and disperse the power of thunder. According to Li Changshou's current knowledge, most of the destructive power of the heavenly tribulation on cultivators comes from the power of thunder, and a small part is caused by the impact of the Tao. If he could make a secondary lightning transfer needle, which could extract most of the thunder power from the cultivator's body when the heavenly tribulation strikes, it might increase the chances of successfully passing the tribulation, and theoretically, it wouldn't cause an increase in the power of the heavenly tribulation. Regardless, it's worth a try if there's a method. Brother, what's this new contraption you've made? Is it another quick array deployment device? Swearing to the Grand Pure Ancestor, Lan Lingyi only asked this question and was called over by her senior brother and put into a wooden cage as a guinea pig to verify this technological achievement. The wooden cage was over a person's height, made from 36 pieces of lightning-struck wood tied together, with a layer of fine-colored iron netting on the inside. As the lightning-struck wood was pieced together, the cage looked somewhat shabby. The top of the cage was a multicolored long needle, and at the bottom was a hexagonal ring made from the melting of thunder god iron. But it wasn't any array, nor were there any prohibitions on it. It was simply a hexagonal shape. During the Chi practitioner's ascension to immortality, arrays cannot be used to resist. As the heavenly tribulation's lightning ignores all array barriers, the magic weapons refined in the mortal world have many wonderful uses, mainly relying on the prohibitions carved inside and outside the magic weapon. Based on Li Changshou's years of research, he confirmed that the principles of prohibitions and arrays are actually the same. Both utilize fixed symbols and patterns to stimulate spiritual energy, only differing in complexity and size. Condensed on the magic weapon, it can be seen as a separate array base, mostly relying on the Chi practitioner's infusion of immortal power to activate the prohibitions, thus exerting a powerful force. The array is based on the array base as a node, with the spiritual energy flowing between the bases, mainly relying on the power of heaven and earth. Although the principles are the same, the directions of development are completely different. A sophisticated magic weapon of the mortal world can often integrate a complete set of prohibitions on the size of a fingernail cover. The power of the array, however, often corresponds to its deployment area and seeks to blend with the heavens and the earth, borrowing their power. Therefore, although Li Changshou is good at arrays, he is not good at refining. There's no helping it. He's only been practicing immortality for 120 years, and after he could stop sleeping, he rarely slept. Practicing and pondering over various things like alchemy, poison and arrays all take a lot of time. He wished he could split a 12-hour day into 24 hours, but after all, his years of cultivation were short, and he had to make sacrifices in his side jobs. He couldn't be good at everything. Let's get back to the matter of resisting the heavenly tribulation. The heavenly tribulation ignores arrays and most defensive magic weapons. Only some rare magic weapons can be used to reduce the power of the heavenly tribulation. Innate spiritual treasures and supreme treasures are not part of the discussion. They are too rare, but Li Changshou has an advantage that others don't have: 9 years of compulsory education. The wooden cage he made now is the Faraday cage that was in the physics textbook in high school, used for lightning protection, and also often appears in some visually pleasing electric shock performances. The principle and so on, Li Changshou had almost forgotten, but the construction should not be wrong. If he remembered correctly. Li Changshou warned Lingyi, "Don't touch the nets around you." Lingyi, in the cage, shivered. She stood on a wooden board, looked pitifully at her brother. "Brother, what are you trying to do?" "Just stay still," Li Changshou said calmly, took out a few charms from his sleeve, and casually threw them above the cage, about 30 feet away, and pointed at the charm with his left hand. With a few crackling sounds, lightning fell from the clear sky. Several bolts of lightning directly hit the lightning-struck wood at the top of the cage. The iron net around the cage instantly lit up with small arcs of electricity, and the thunder god iron below immediately dispersed the lightning, blending it into the earth. Blue Lingyi, who was curled up in a ball, slowly lifted her head, looked around in surprise, and exclaimed, "What kind of treasure is this? It can actually resist the thunder." Li Changshou said indifferently, "This is a Faraday cage. Stay a while longer, and I'll try increasing the intensity." "Brother, no." "Ah!" Before Lingyi could finish, Li Changshou had already taken out a stack of yellow paper charms from his sleeve, urged his magical power, and threw them above the cage. These charms triggered falling lightning, bringing about thunderous sounds, and bombarded the wood cage below. In an instant, electric light burst forth, and the birds on Little Cheong Peak flew up in flocks, and the spirit beasts everywhere were panicking. Practice proved that the effect of this Faraday cage was not bad, but it was not known whether it would be directly shattered when facing the real heavenly tribulation. As long as it could help Master resist the first heavenly thunder, everything else would be easy. "Come out, you've worked hard." Li Changshou called out and began to ponder the method of reinforcing the wooden cage. Lingyi couldn't help complaining, "Brother, wouldn't it be the same if you put a fish in there? I wanted you to have some sense of participation." Li Changshou smiled, "Helping Master cross the tribulation, both of us have made some efforts." Lingyi immediately pursed her lips, raised her hand to sort out the hair by her ears, and said softly, "Brother, are we going to try again later? I have low cultivation, but I can do this kind of thing. Next, I can't let you in there anymore. As you said, go and find a wooden barrel and catch a fish." Li Changshou took out some long ropes that emitted colorful light and continued to work hard. "The power of the lightning I'm going to test next will fall directly on you. You definitely can't bear it." Lingyi agreed and turned to rush to the lakeside. Avoiding her master who was in a soundproof barrier and meditating, she jumped onto the lake and walked on the waves. Moments later, lightning flashed again on Little Cheong Peak. This commotion lasted for 3 days, and outsiders thought that someone was practicing thunder method here, and no one paid any attention to it, until Qi Yuan, the old Taoist, woke up from meditation. turned over with satisfaction, and his wrinkled forehead suddenly hung. With black lines, the originally green grassy and beautiful lakeside was now a big black pit, and his two disciples were squatting at the bottom of the pit, fiddling with a large bird cage. Qi Yuan sighed helplessly and scolded, "What are you two doing messing around instead of cultivating properly?" "Master, you're awake!" Lan Lingyi shouted excitedly, "Brother made a treasure for you to resist the heavenly tribulation. It's been struck by lightning dozens or hundreds of times, and the fish inside is still alive." Li Changshou also said, "Master, please wait a moment, this object will be finished soon." "Oh?" Qi Yuan's expression moved, and he was about to go down and see what new treasure his eldest disciple had made, but as soon as the old Taoist moved his feet, his expression suddenly changed. He stared at the eastern sky, motionless. Lan Lingyi looked up and asked, "Master, what's wrong?" Alas, Qi Yuan stood with his hands behind his back and said softly, "The heavenly tribulation is here." Just 4 words, and the smiles on Li Changshou and Lan Lingyi's faces disappeared instantly. The two of them quickly jumped out of the pit and looked in the direction their master was looking. They saw a patch of gray-black clouds appearing in the eastern sky, flying towards Du Xianmen at a rapid speed. "Lingyi, quickly!" Li Changshou immediately said, "Take this cage to the tribulation site that master chose on the back mountain. Be sure to bury the 6 pieces of thunder god iron below in the soil." Indeed, with her delicate arms, Lan Lingyi directly hoisted the birdcage of the law master and swiftly rode the clouds towards the back mountain, completely ignoring any image of a fairy. At this moment, Li Changshou was even more anxious than his own master. He immediately took out a brocade box from his sleeve and rushed to Qi Yuan. "Master, this is a precious medicine that I have painstakingly refined. It can help you survive a heavenly tribulation. After the first tribulation is over, if you feel that you can't withstand the next one, use it immediately." Qi Yuan, the old Taoist, looked at Li Changshou with a smile, his gaze flickering lightly, and whispered, "Keep this medicine for yourself. Use it when you cross the tribulation in the future, don't waste it on your master." "Master," Li Changshou knelt directly in front of the old Taoist Qi Yuan, stuffed the brocade box into Qi Yuan's hands, and said anxiously, "Master has nurtured and taught me for 100 years, leading me into the path and never made any harsh demands on me. This is the only thing I can do for you. If you don't accept this medicine, I will destroy it now." Qi Yuan just smiled bitterly, "Why are you doing this? I know my own situation. By the way, I have 11 more of these." Li Changshou immediately switched his thinking, "I can swear to the great Tao that there are indeed 11 more of the same elixir, and each Qi refiner can only use one." The old Taoist Qi Yuan hesitated for a moment, "Really? Absolutely true. Well then," Qi Yuan held the brocade box in his hand, "let's go to the back mountain. Don't let the heavenly tribulation destroy our dwelling." The gray cloud flying from the east has reached the Du Xian gate. Li Changshou quickly rode a white cloud, pulling his master towards the back mountain. "Master, you should conserve your magic power. By the way, Master, do you have enough elixirs on you? During the tribulation, you can use all kinds of elixirs. Have you prepared the healing and vitality restoring elixirs? How come this heavenly tribulation came without any warning?" I'm prepared." The old Taoist Qi Yuan smiled as he looked at Li Changshou, who was in front of him, and the image of the shy and somewhat at a loss boy when he first brought him to the mountain appeared in his heart. In the blink of an eye, so many years have passed, the child of the past. Although his later path was a bit wild, he has grown up after all. I used all the last accumulation of Xiaoqiong Peak on him, just hoping that he can successfully become an immortal. Changshou. If your master can't survive the heavenly tribulation, you will take care of Xiaoqiong Peak. If the sect wants to take back our Xiaoqiong Peak, you don't have to resist, just follow the arrangements of the sect. I have already asked a few familiar fellow disciples, they will take you and Lingyi to other peaks to practice. Master, you will definitely survive the heavenly tribulation." Li Changshou said firmly, "You must not lose your confidence now. This is a test given by the heavens. Once you pass it, the world will be wide open. If living beings don't fight for this slim chance of survival, why should they bother to live in this world? In any desperate situation, there is always a glimmer of hope. Only by fighting when you are in a desperate situation can you survive." The old Taoist Qi Yuan sighed lightly and smiled bitterly, "My good disciple, don't you know these truths? Why are you so cautious in ordinary times?" Li Changshou said solemnly, "I have never forgotten the truths taught by my master. My caution is just to avoid falling into desperate situations." In a blink of an eye, they arrived at the back mountain of Xiaoqiong Peak. Lingyi was constantly waving her hand in a clearing in the forest. Li Changshou jumped down with his master and pushed his master into the newly made birdcage without saying a word. He then bent down to check the placement of the birdcage, threw a bunch of porcelain bottles into his master's hands, finally closed the birdcage, and flew back with Lingyi. The gray cloud had appeared above the Du Xian gate, casting the gate into darkness. Li Changshou shouted loudly, "Master, resist with all your might. That precious medicine must be used after the first heavenly tribulation." Qi Yuan nodded solemnly, looked up at the tribulation cloud, and a surge of magical power surged around him, his robe fluttering without wind. Ling Yi shouted, "Master, you can do it. For myself, I also have to fight this time." The old Taoist Qi Yuan looked up at the sky, his eyes sparkling. It's a fight, against fate. Suddenly, a dragon's roar fell from the cloud, and a 1,000-foot-long azure dragon with red scales all over its body burst out of the gray cloud, viciously slapping its claws on the mountain protection formation. The light of the mountain protection formation surged, the peaks trembled slightly, and the ground roared everywhere. At the same time, a deep voice descended from the sky. "Whoever is in charge of Du Xian Gate, come out and answer." "Wait a minute, the azure dragon is talking. This gray cloud is also outside the mountain protection formation, and does not have the characteristic of ignoring all formations, although there is a pressure, but upon careful feeling, it is not heavenly might." Isn't this Master's tribulation cloud?" Ling Yi tilted her head, and Li Changshou couldn't help but put his hand on his forehead. Qi Yuan, who was standing in the birdcage, twitched at the corner of his mouth. The old Taoist silently turned around, slowly squatted down. Oh, heavens above, they've made a complete fool of themselves this time.